5. Ooh, that's a little different.
Yeah.
Full table tonight.
Full
Exactly.
table.
This is the busiest table we've had yet.
These guys come dressed up.
Holy
That's
moly.
awesome.
We've had a lot of people reaching out to us today
Yep.
saying, looking forward to the show. And we just want to introduce and thank you to our 3 guests for coming in. Okay, before we do that.
Before we get started, we need to acknowledge our personal G's as Reboot Repair. They were here again this afternoon, making sure that we were tuned up for this great event tonight. Stratford's best computer support and services, personalized IT solutions, hardware, software repairs, on-site and business services. Guys, thank you so much. Forevermore, forever grateful. Reboot Repair.
Yeah.
So starting with our first guest wearing his blue leather second-year coat, Stanley Cup champion 2001 with the Colorado Avalanche, Mr. Greg DeVries.
Hey, fellas. Thanks for having me out.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for dressing up.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
All 3 of them.
Getting instructions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All 3 of them pulled stuff out of the archives to wear tonight.
Well, it's unbelievable shape, this jacket. My mom, I opened up the closet at my mom's place, and she has every year lined
That's
up
fantastic.
perfectly. So I had a choice. I had a couple of choices.
That's awesome.
awesome,
And
awesome.
you were
Well,
up in
Goes with
Sundridge.
my jeans and my
Absolutely.
wardrobe. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we've talked about it a lot. Sitting to your left, you've got Colin Schmidt, who has his first-year blazer on with the gold-threaded emblem on that we've talked about. Compliments of Brown's Menswear, Ontario Street. Oh, sorry. No, that's Pazos now.
Yeah.
But Colin Schmidt, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's back in those days there was no cell phones, so there's lots of pockets for keeping things.
Well, we were joking around. Colin said he thinks he's the only guy that's actually lost weight from when he was playing junior because the coat is actually big on him, folks. I don't know if you can tell online, but it
I
actually
could
is.
tell the Schmidt family has dogs.
I don't have my mom keeping mine in good shape. It's sitting exactly where it was 30 some odd years ago, I think. Yeah.
And to his left, we have Erik Anderson, one of the greatest setup man and goal scorers in Culleton history. Erik, thank you for coming. The pride of Plymouth, Michigan.
That's right. Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Guys, it's just been so exciting talking about you 3 coming on.
Razor, you didn't introduce him right. That is the father of Bo Anderson,
Yeah, there you go, Bo.
the midget juvie highlight reel.
Right?
Yep.
Told him I'd do it for him.
Okay.
He was all excited. He said he
Nice.
wanted to come. He said, but his dad wouldn't bring him. I said, there's a reason, Bo.
You're right. I told
Okay.
him he's not allowed.
Well, we all 3 of them have sons
Yeah.
involved with the Culletons, with Luke, Joe, and Bo. So
Jonas is on a hot streak right now.
Yeah,
He's on a heater.
Yeah, it took him a while to get
It
going.
did, but
yeah, I
Good for him.
think he's having a lot of fun, smiling a lot.
Oh, he
more
is, he
jumping
is.
his step right now.
it's great, guys, because a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you were able to see the show, we had Paul Barton and Dan Forget on. We got so many texts and responses of taking down memory lane, and I'm sure it's going to be the same with you 3. Even though you guys didn't all play together, like Greg, you came in first in what 90?
Check the jacket,
90, 91. Greg, he said it's got Greg on it, 90, 91, but he said that's before he had the nickname Devo, so everyone used to call him Greg back then. But
Mr. Greg.
yeah, but yeah, Devo, you came in first. You're from Sundridge. How the heck did you end up in Stratford?
Well, I had actually played Junior B the year before. I played in Aurora, so I left. I played AAA hockey in North Bay, Ontario, and left to play Junior B in Aurora for a year. Then I was drafted. I was drafted to the OHL. I got drafted at Niagara Falls, and during the year, I'd been highly, ranked high, and I didn't go where I was projected to go.
Okay.
So in the back of my head, I got a little upset, pissed off, you could say. And my dad's always been, my dad's an American citizen, was a U.S. citizen, was always pushing university hockey, wanted me to get my education. So instead of going to Niagara Falls when I was drafted, I looked for the best junior B, organization in the country, and ended up here. So it was great for me. Fantastic. It worked out. They have a direct line to Bowling Green at the time. So
Right.
I got here. Denny brought me in, and we had a fantastic time.
Right. And so then you come into Stratford not knowing a soul, and then find out you're playing with Chris Pronger, Rem Murray, like all future NHLers along with yourself. And what was that like coming into training camp and seeing everyone and just trying to feel your way so far away from home?
Yeah, it was I gotten used to a little bit being away from home because when I came here, I think I was 16, turned 17. Like I mentioned before, the year before I was away, but it was only a couple hours from home. So yeah, it was a little bit of a move that way. Very competitive. I remember during training camp because, like you mentioned, a lot of great players and a lot of tradition in the Stratford area for hockey. I came into Stratford knowing what the goal was and what their goal was, and it was just a fantastic experience. Well, I mean, everybody knows I ended up meeting a girl here in Stratford.
Right. Susie Galloway.
Galloway family.
Yes.
And it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me in hockey, right? Meeting her and her family. So that worked out.
Yeah. They are such a great family, and we'll talk to not only Susie, but her younger sister Karen became involved in the equation as well. So
Also, Greg,
Sure did.
you did it kind of weird. You went to Bowling Green, and then you came back to the OHL.
Yeah, I don't know. How do I like to tell people?
that's about a 10 beer story.
But it was uncommon at the time.
It was uncommon at the time, but my own fault.
Yeah.
I mean, straight up, I always tell people my own fault. I was pretty immature going at that age as far as school was. I did not take it too seriously, the schooling aspect of it. So I ran into a little bit of trouble that way. I didn't play as much as I expected because of that. I ran into a little trouble outside the arena, outside school. Actually, Chris's brother, Sean, got into some exciting times outside of the arena. So, but it worked out. Yeah, it didn't work out. The college didn't work out. Bowling Green had a great, I really enjoyed, obviously, I don't know how, I played for the, Jerry York, let's see, the all-time winningest coach ever. And somehow I couldn't fit in, but I would put the onus on myself, not Jerry.
For sure. And so then, Schmitty, you come in a few years afterwards. You were pretty much grew up here in Stratford, did you not?
Yeah, we moved here when I was in, I think it was going into 6th grade or 5th grade. So
Right.
pretty much.
So-
I would say I started going to the games in the late 80s.
So you would have caught like the old Chuck era and
Little bit missed that. I would have been more like
Emerson,
Sean
Heafy.
Emerson.
Yep.
Yeah. I went to
85,
Stratford
86.
Yeah, I went to that. I would have seen them at the old Stratford Hockey School at the Duff
Right.
Gardens.
Every August.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that would have been kind of the first memories. Would have been actually the players coming on the ice during the summer hockey school, and I think Nelson Emerson actually was one of the folks that was on the ice, the players. So that would be my first memory of the Cullens.
And so unlike the other two, they didn't have a choice growing up in Stratford. And so would it be safe to say, like we've had Tim Taylor and Jason Clark and all the Stratford people that had grown up here, Friday nights going down to the Allman Arena, watching the Junior Bs, and would it be safe to say that you envisioned yourself one day wearing the Indian head on the front of your jersey?
I'd like to say for sure that's what I would have been thinking about, but I don't know if that's what I was thinking about at that age, to be honest with you. I loved playing when I was younger, and then it kind of, I don't know that it would have been in my top 3 things that were in my priority list for a period of time there. But yeah, I loved going down to the games. The energy of the games, and the teams were always in the mix right through that whole time before I played. So yeah, that part of it, the energy, I really, really loved. I'm not sure that I sat there thinking like, I hope I play here.
Right.
I don't know that that's, I've thought about that a lot recently. I would say between the ages of some would argue even today, but 14 and, and 20, I'm not sure that was my first priority.
Because you took a little unique approach before you threw the Culleton jersey on. You ended up going to New Hamburg, played a little bit there, and then you went over to Waterloo for a couple of years. Like, how did that all happen?
Well,
Played
I would
for
say
the
even for the 2 years prior to that, I would have played some games for the Culletons as call-ups. So I think I probably had maybe 10 games in those 2 years prior to that. Over the course of those 2 years, I think I got called up my first games I was in. It would have been in Bantam. I remember going into Owen Sound and TU pulling me aside and telling me, "You're running through people in Bantam. I expect you to go out here and run through people here." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm in a different weight class here,
right?
For sure." But yeah, I went to New Hamburg. I played there, I think till just after Christmas that year, and then TU I think was in Waterloo that year. Was when he was in Waterloo, and so he gobbled me up around the deadline. And I finished the year. It was the last year the team was in the bubble before they moved over.
Right.
To
Yeah,
the
where
other
you
one.
had to go through the doors. You could only fit one guy in.
That's right. And you had to do one at a time because otherwise the rumor was that the dome would fall down from the air pressure. I'm pretty sure that's not exactly how that worked.
Right.
But then I went and finished that year with Waterloo, and because back then New Hamburg was affiliated with Waterloo, Stratford was affiliated with Woodstock. Wherever you went to, that's where your player rights went. So it was kind of a backdoor way to get into the league. Yeah.
Right. So then, how did was TU still there when Stratford came knocking, saying that they wanted you to come to town and join Andy?
Well, TU sometimes didn't have the longest welcome in some places back in those days, and it wasn't for anything other than like the guy. Yeah,
Right.
I mean he was awesome. He was awesome to me for sure. But he I think he didn't even make it through the rest of that year. I think he had a bit of a falling out with Waterloo, and he was doing awesome. Like the team was doing awesome. They brought in I think Rich Ennis, who at the time I think was the trainer, to finish off the year, and he was a psychology professor who I ran into in a completely different time of my life when I went to Laurier to finish my degree. Rich Ennis is there as an instructor, so he finished that year, and then the next year they started fresh with a pretty solid coach in Jeff Ward.
Okay.
And that would have been my first year in Stratford or in Waterloo.
In Waterloo. Okay.
Yeah.
Now was Greg Beaupre, was he the GM still at the time?
He was the GM and or the president.
Yeah.
Chucky Neeson, who had the big handlebar mustaches.
Right.
He was the assistant coach.
The Raleigh
Jerry
fingers.
Harrigan, I think, was just out of the league at that point.
Okay.
But I did run into Jerry quite a bit in my 2 years in Waterloo, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. And then Andy, here you are playing Detroit CompuWare.
Mm-hmm.
Did Denny see you at a tournament? Like, how did you catch first wind of the Culletons?
Yeah, it was. We used to come up this way all the time, 7-8 times a year, and play. But when I first met Joan and Denny, I actually lived in Thornhill with a few guys, and we played on a tournament team. Lindsay Hoffman or Hofford, I think was his name.
Yeah.
And the three of us, myself, Mike York, Mike Weaver, lived in his basement for the summer and played tournaments. And that's where we, kind of ran into Denny and Joan and came in contact and, kind of said they'd like me to come here. And we went back, and there was another guy that played as well, Adam Patterson, who I came here with.
Okay.
And they talked to him, and we went back. And Adam's dad, Dennis Patterson's longtime scout in the NHL for Philly. He's been all over. And as soon as we said, hey, we talked to Joan and Denny, Stratford Culletons, he looked at both of us and he says, that's it. That's where you boys are going. He says, you're not going anywhere else. Because there was some junior options at home and and I think the USHL was kind of starting to kind of pop up then. And he said, no. He says, that's where you guys are going.
Right.
And here we are.
So that carries a lot of weight when you're
absolutely,
hearing
sure.
that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, long time NHL scout, right? So he said, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. He said, that's where you're going. So here we are.
Yeah, because like you look at like back in the 80s, like all the guys like you had mentioned, Emerson and, like I think off of our 85-86 team, I think we had like 10 or 11 guys drafted pro off of that team, and then I think we had 13 that got D1 Scullies, and it was just like a pipeline, for not only NCAA, OHL, but also the NHL. Like, it was crazy, like I had a front row seat backing up Matt Merton that year. Good goalie, got drafted by Vancouver. And you look up and you got Bobby Clark in the stands, or like it was pretty amazing,
sure.
right? And
that's, you say Bobby Clark, that's probably why Dennis knew so much about it as well, because he was really good friends with Bobby.
Oh,
And
really?
so they were really close, and so that could be a connection as to why Dennis said there's no other option.
Right,
So,
right.
So Jake chimed in. Jake, you're not chopped liver. You're the brother of Bo.
Oh, that's awesome. So then you come in your first year, you're a rookie, not knowing the powerhouse team that you guys are coming in 94, 95,
95, yeah.
95, and tell us a little bit about that. You had John Sycamore in that. You had
first year
it was Matt
would've been
Barnes.
Barnesy, yeah.
It was Barnesy. Sycamore was the
Yeah.
next year when Schmidt came.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, players moving on. I don't know, we probably had from that team, 8, 10, 12 guys go on to school. You had Boydie Devereaux, who obviously went the other route, would play in the NHL
Right.
and Stanley Cups. And
Yeah, he went to
Halpern.
Kitchener, I think, didn't
Yeah.
he? The Rangers, yeah.
Then Jeff Halpern, who, played a long time in the NHL Stanley Cup. So it was a great team.
Exactly.
So, yeah, there was a lot of good players on that team.
Yeah, you guys were spoiled with riches for sure.
That's for sure.
And then like Matt Barnes, just lights out goalie. Like, what was he? Like, he was shorter than me. What is he, like 5'5"?
I
Like,
want to say he was 5'4".
Yeah, like,
he wasn't big.
I remember working Friday nights down at the Almond and watching you guys, and like just thinking, like, this guy's reflexes are insane.
He was so quick, but all compete. Like, he was one
Right.
of those guys that didn't matter if it was game practice, whatever.
Right.
Mini sticks in the Parsons basement. Like,
Yes.
you weren't scoring on him.
Right.
And that's just the mentality he had. And he definitely stopped a lot of pucks.
There's
Yeah.
a reason why he holds the franchise record for shutouts in a year. Like, he was that good.
What did he have?
6.
6. Okay, Terry Wickham had 5.
Terry Wickham had 5.
Yeah.
Razor, how many you have?
You know what? One year I had 3, and that was my second year. And one of them was against Waterloo, and then the wheels kind of came off the cart when the other goalie, John Gustafson, fantastic guy. I keep in touch with him. He works with the Sharks. He's the VP of the Sharks, and I often joke with him, and I said, if your parents wouldn't have came down that weekend, I had played, or he had played the Friday night, and it was my turn to play Sunday in Waterloo, and I had just shut out Waterloo the week before. And long story short, Dennis told me Saturday morning that because John's parents had come down from Fort Francis, Ontario, near the Manitoba border, that he was going to play him. And I'm like, Dennis, like, my parents want to see me play too. And so then that was the beginning of the
Off
end.
to St. Thomas.
Off to St. Thomas.
His
Well,
picture's still up at the Joe Thornton Community Center right now.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. And so then you guys beat Joe Thornton
Yeah, we did,
in the All Ontarios that year. And
Yeah, we did.
tell us a little bit about the final. Do you remember much of it? Or
Little bits. We didn't lose much. I'm not sure. We lost one game, I think, in the round robin. But yeah, I think it was 4 straight with St. Thomas. And we just had so much depth and Barnesy but one of my favorite memories is we picked up, I think, Bill McComb at the deadline, and he was an older guy, and it was.
You picked up a couple of guys I remember
Yeah.
reading about, McComb and
and
Perry Ohm.
Yeah, Perry Ohm, Omer.
Yeah.
Almost me that year, actually. They had
yeah?
inquired if I wanted. I waited till the end of that year, but yeah.
Okay.
It was,
Yeah, Omer used to throw up. I remember he used to throw up every game in the locker room before. Like, and you'd hear him in the washroom, and just
Really,
nervous.
just because he was a 20-year-old
Yeah,
too. Like,
yeah.
but he just
yeah.
he's probably not used to playing in front of 3,000 people in the playoffs
for
either,
sure.
right? So
Yeah, so yeah, it was good. And I remember Bill McComb It was, I don't know, there might have been a minute and a half to go, and he was on the ice, and we got the hats out because we were ahead by a little bit, and everyone's hugging each other. And then you look across, and there's Bill. He's got some kid, and he's dropped the gloves, and he's fighting him on his way out. And we were all killing ourselves. Helmets are off, hats are on, champion hats, and Bill's over there fighting some guy across the ice. He wanted to go out right. So. But that was a lot of fun. I mean, great team, and I think it was 4 straight, and I'm not sure how
Right,
close
because
they were.
you guys, Niagara Falls and St. Thomas, back-to-back years were the 3 teams that played in the round robin, and then you guys beat St. Thomas. I remember reading about you guys were playing a nothing game. It was the last game of the round robin against St. Thomas. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows how rough and tumble Niagara like to play it. And so then I remember reading about Niagara accusing you guys of throwing it because if St. Thomas won, then you would have played them. So by St. Thomas beating you in a nothing game, you ended up playing St. Thomas in the finals.
That's right.
And I remember, I think it was Terry Masterton was the coach of Niagara, and he went in the paper and said that is a travesty that the Stratford Cullitons would throw, a game because they're scared to play us. Well, then the next year, then you guys were all tied. All 3 of the teams were tied at 2-2. Yeah. So then you had a 1-game playoff against Niagara Falls, and then they ended up beating you, and they went on to the finals that year.
That's right. I remember, going into that, the Niagara Falls, they were big, they were mean, and everyone, and they were chirping, there's no way we're going to run you right out of our building, whatever it was. And I forget, I think it had to be 11-2 that we dusted them early, but we just had a really good team.
And they played in that old rink.
Yeah.
Down, right down there by the falls, and that that was a old dingy.
I forget who their goalie was, but I think he might have been the toughest guy on their team.
Really?
That's what everyone told me. He was,
Same rink I would have played in.
Yeah, same rink you would have played in.
The Garden City Arena. Is that what?
Couldn't finish the hash marks.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
And boards were too close.
Yeah,
right.
Good for a stay-at-home defenseman, though.
Right. Yeah, that's great.
If you went down there, if you watched some of the games, the guys would hit the boards, and the board wouldn't move, but the glass would fall back about 3 feet and then come back and hit the guy again. Right? Like,
is that barn still there? Or no,
it's still there. They don't use it anymore, though.
We have to bring up the numbers. Like, these are just ridiculous numbers, and we don't mean to, embarrass you
don't
guys.
need to put my stats.
Your stats were good too. I was looking over your stats, but these guys. So in the 96-97 year, you've got Andy 145 points. You've got Schmidt with 129. And Dennis Williams had 122 points for 396 points from one line. Like, that's
still
insanity.
A record.
I don't
it's
know.
Still a record.
I don't know if that'll ever be built.
Yeah, that's
like, that is just
the league's not the same anymore where you can achieve those type of points. I don't think
back then
video
was,
video. I think
it really is right.
Yeah.
None of those.
Well, Schwiegen's not.
Right.
They can't. Yeah, they can't go back and check the video and take assists away from you.
And just to put this in perspective, and we all love Cole Lewis. Cole's on his way to get his 100th junior B point. Andy had 145 in one season, one of his 3 seasons.
Colin had 100 the year before.
Yeah,
you scored 100 points in Stratford, but you got to remember back then there wasn't as much parity as there is in the league today. Because you had some teams you guys could walk in and know, we're going to put 10 up on this team. And everybody's going to get all the rush weekend.
And Colin,
teams play a little bit more balanced. Like the coaching, you don't necessarily load up the way. Like if it was now, you might have got 2 of us playing together, and then they put one of the other ones on a different line, and they really load.
Like in your 2 seasons, Colin, you had 229 points with 84 goals. I mean. That's incredible.
It really is.
And like you say, there's different scenarios now, and there's no Oshwegans in the league or the Brantford Classics, what have you. But there's not a whole lot that have achieved that in their junior B career in such a short amount of time.
I was reading where Trevor Reeb from Elmira shadowed you in the league final, and Elmira coach Jeff Snyder was quoted as saying, "I've been around this league a long time, and I've never seen a better hockey player than Erik Anderson." Like, that's some pretty
it's
pretty
cool.
amazing words, for a coach in a junior B league to be saying. And they ended up winning the championship that one year against after beating you guys, coming back down 3-2, and then won Game 6 and then Game 7 in Stratford. But I didn't know if
That's
you had
pretty
ever
cool.
read that or ever
hadn't
knew
heard
it.
that, no.
But
That's pretty cool.
it is pretty cool.
We'll
And-
shine some light on Greg down here. Greg, for your year in Stratford, you played 40 games, 8 assists and 32 goals, or 8 goals and 32 assists, 40 points.
Yeah.
For a defenseman, there's nothing wrong with that. You were just a
must have some good forwards.
You were a playmaker.
You just
back
got it up to Rem and a few of the boys.
and out,
Raymond
there must
Murray.
have been some speed.
then.
It must have been speed.
That was the whole game back then. off the glass and out.
'Cause you were more of a stay-at-home defenseman.
Yes, for the most part, I guess. I think in my career, that's how I kind of established
Yep.
myself onto a team, and then once I was comfortable, maybe.
Yeah,
I
you
would,
started activating yourself, and because I was just gave him the cheat sheet, and he was looking over his own stats, and there's a couple of years there where he breaks out, even in the NHL. 32 points the one year for Colorado.
Contract years.
Yeah.
betting on yourself.
Yeah,
Wouldn't you
less,
like one of
less,
those years now,
less
right?
staying out late in contract years. You're home in bed when
That's
you
right.
should be. But yeah, you guys had like some studs too. Jamie Hartnett, Rem, Chris Brooks. You guys had some, solid players. Jason
Swervin'
Mervin,
Mervin, yeah.
Mervin, you're right. Chris McDonald.
Who's that guy from up north there? I
Bayshard?
think he won
The
the tall kid that went to the NHL.
Pronger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he on the team?
He was on the
Yeah,
team.
he was on
yeah,
the
yeah,
team.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Chris
Yeah.
was on the team. Yeah, for sure.
So were you guys partners, or did they have you guys separated?
Good question. I wouldn't remember. I'm sure we played at some point together.
Right.
I don't know who I played. We had a real solid team.
Yeah.
I remember because Steve Miller was there for the start of the year.
Right.
And it was just such a solid. And he was a good player.
Yeah.
And it's just such a solid team. He decided he's going to go elsewhere just because we had such a solid team.
Right.
Was that the year you guys played St. Catharines? And St. Catharines had those jerseys that looked like pajamas.
No, that was the year before
The year
with
before.
the McLeod goal because I played
right.
Streetsville in the semis and then played St. Catharines in the final.
Yeah,
We
you guys
lost
beat,
to Waterloo.
You beat Elmira 4-0, Brantford 4-0, and then you lost to Waterloo in Game 7.
Yeah, those Brantford games were something to behold.
Yep.
They were-
Well,
they were
because
wild.
I remember reading Bob Wade. Do you remember him? He was the president.
Yep, for sure.
He had to get a hold of the league, and because he was worried, and he phoned Brantford president and GM Brian Pennell, expressing his fears about an ugly finale. And
Yeah.
so Bob was awesome. He was such a good guy, and he was part of the executive when I played a couple of years earlier. And I just remember him, he phoned Brent Lads and had and Brantford was actually on their best behavior, like overall. Like I think if he wouldn't have made those phone calls, things probably could have gotten out of hand. But
I think so. During the year, I remember beating them maybe in the 20s. Did we beat them 20-4 or something?
Really?
One day? And there'd be a new guy on the bench, and you'd get the old coach pointing at you. I don't remember so much, but talking to Reuter, Mike McLeod,
Right.
he reminds me of all these things.
Right.
So he would know all these stories. But
Well,
He
because-
got the great stories.
oh yeah,
Those were the years where you'd go down for the pregame brawl, right? Because you knew the Brantford's in town. Well, there'll be a pregame brawl, and somebody will drive the Zamboni or the cop car out on the ice.
well, that's how Denny ended up getting Rob Blake, because Blakey played for the Classics his first year, and then the team actually got suspended. So Blakey needed a team to go to, and so Denny swooped in and grabbed him our second year, and then, well, he ended up going on to an all right career, I think. But
did okay. Still doing okay.
Not too bad. But yeah, and so then Schmitty, after you play, you come into Stratford. You're playing with Andy and Dennis, and you guys are lighting it up. And then you end up getting a Scully down to Alabama, Huntsville. And what was that like down there?
Well, I went down and joined Shane Stewart, who was
Okay.
in Stratford the year prior.
Yep.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a culture shock. It was different.
Right.
I think I still have a couple articles from the UAH paper, the Huntsville Times, I think it was at the time, and they're still debating whether or not segregation in school or desegregation should occur. It was, and this was the 90s.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was pretty wild. It was a pretty wild.
Because that's mid 90s, late 90s.
Mid 90s.
Yeah.
And Huntsville is like a very progressive town. It's really, really well educated. A lot of Canadian transplants in Huntsville because they've got a huge aerospace program down there, massive Lockheed Martin place down there. So a lot of Canadian engineers end up in Huntsville. Neither Shane Stewart or I had any prospects of working at those places.
But you did get to play 10 games in Daytona.
In Dayton.
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 Okay.
I wish it was Daytona.
Yeah, Dayton.
No, Dayton,
So you came up
Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, that was after Alabama. Much like Greg, I did not stay for 4 years at the school. I was not quite ready for that. I was doing well in the classroom, but I just wasn't. It just wasn't home for me.
Right.
So I left. I wasn't quite sure I wanted to be done playing, so I kind of had a little, I would say, a little rebound after I left Alabama, and they had moved from a D2 program to a D1 program. The way the NCAA worked at the time was then you were going to be on 2 years of probation, athletic probation as a team, so we ended up having to play exhibition games. Well, they didn't call them that, out of conference games. I called them exhibition games and said to the coach, I'm not all that interested in playing exhibition games for my next 2 years.
Right.
So I left there and went to Dayton. Got to do a couple of road trips to Johnstown and Wheeling, West Virginia.
On the Iron Lung.
Yeah, a couple of those places, and very quickly decided that life wasn't for me either.
Right.
So yeah, and then I came back and went to Laurier and finished my degree there, and decided that I'll use a different part of my body to try and make a living.
Right. Ended up and just reading up on your stuff, like Faculty of Science. You were actually a teaching aide, were you not? Like doing
Yeah, I was
like
both. I was a stats teaching assistant, and I was also a research assistant. And I met some really good profs who took a shining to me and got me involved in what they were doing. And as it worked out, I was inside. I did a double in psychology and business, and the psychology portion was more in kind of leadership and motivation and that kind of stuff, like as a business angle. But I did my senior thesis, and as it turns out, it ended up becoming the base study in a 4-part research study that ended up getting published in the European Journal of Social Psychology. So, yeah, I'm authored.
Well, all of that all worked out. We'll come back to it, but you end up using, I think you're using your science degree in business administration now further on in life with the companies that you're working for right now. But we'll come back to that. But Andy, you end up leaving the Cullitons. You get a 4-year Scully to St. Lawrence. What was that like going out there?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. I was just actually there this past weekend for a reunion. But yeah, it was great. St. Lawrence was awesome. It was a smaller program, so going in, the way it worked out, I figured I would get playing time, so jumped in, had a blast. We had a good team for 3 of the 4 years, and made a lot of great friends and some good memories.
Yeah, because it was the 25th anniversary that you were there this past weekend?
Yeah, so my third year, 2000, our team went to the Frozen Four, so we had a 4 overtime game to get into the Frozen Four, and then lost to BC there. So it's been 25 years since that happened. So they had the team back and let us all back in the building, and we had some fun.
And you're in the St. Lawrence University Hall of Fame?
The athletics,
Yep.
not
The
not the
athletic
brain
Hall of
part,
Fame.
but the athletics part, I managed to sneak in there. So yeah, because the 1 year I was a Hobie Baker finalist,
Yep.
so because of that, they felt
Quite a list of other guys that were finalists that year as well.
Yeah, it's well, I need your memory here. Danny Heatley, Ryan Miller won it. He was Michigan State. Ken Huskins. I think of the 10 finalists, I feel like 8 of them, were pretty long time NHL players. Karen,
Right.
if you're watching, you could take a picture of the boy. I got it hanging in our office. with all
I
the
just
guys.
I just
but
read
it's
it the other day.
It's
That's
a
why.
pretty it's a pretty cool list of guys that were were in it. Yeah. So
Well, you mentioned Danny Heatley. We'll talk about that in a bit, but you and him cross paths in a trade later on in your career.
Well, I guess we might have waved at each other on the way back.
But you were the assistant captain as a junior, named captain as a senior, and so that must have been fun seeing all your buddies.
pretty cool. Yeah, a lot of we they say when you're on a team you instantly have 20, 25 brothers, and it's true. We hadn't seen some of them in 25 years, and it takes a second, and you're
Exactly.
back like you've never left their side.
You're laughing about the same jokes you told 25
And all-
years
all the
ago,
stupid
and
stories,
you know the punchline's coming, but
Yeah.
you're still laughing anyways. And I'm sure there were some late nights.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's good. All the coaches came back, which was nice, and it was a really good weekend.
Well, that's awesome,
I was 20 years old again for 2 days.
right?
And I'm
Yeah,
feeling it now.
exactly.
Paying for it.
Yeah. And so, Devo, you go down to BG. It's not for you. You go to Niagara Falls, and then you end up signing as a free agent with Edmonton. Tell us what your agent told you and how that all transpired.
I like the way Colin put it, actually more eloquently than I did about leaving school. So I might borrow that next time. But after Bowling Green, I came back to Niagara Falls and played 1 year, and then went back for my overage year. A name, who threw out Jeff Ward? I think you said Jeff Ward. Jeff Ward was one of my coaches as well in Niagara Falls. Great guy. Went on to a great career too. And then the overage year, we just happened to have one really good game, and the right person's in the stands. And it happened to be Ted Green. Ted Green was in the stands. We were in Detroit playing a game, and I fought. His name Erik Carnes, I believe. Erik Carnes, and big tough guy, and had a goal and a couple assists. And Ted came down after the game. I was on my way, thinking I was going to Western. At the end of the year, and ended up talking to Teddy Green, and he's like, "Do you ever think about continuing on? And we'd like you to come play in Cape Breton, and be like a guy that stays here in Cape Breton." And the fans, no real aspirations from his point of the conversations that I was going to play in Edmonton. But just come to Cape Breton, play for a few years, get the hometown fans to like you, and then keep playing hockey. So he sold me on it. I went at the end of the year and played a couple of years in the minors.
And so was Rem and Louis DeBrus there when you got there, or did they come after?
No. Rem stayed. Rem was a good student. He stayed 4 years at Michigan State.
At Michigan
right?
State, okay.
Yeah, actually, side note, Rem, somebody told me one time that he was the best, smartest athlete or up here.
Like
hockey
grade
player.
point average?
Hockey player
Okay.
It was Mason, actually, was the coach.
Really? Because
I
his
think I
older
ran
brother.
into him at the cottage. Did he have a cottage up?
Yes, up on Lake Huron
Yeah,
there.
so I think he said Rem Murray was the best hockey.
Best combined hockey athletic, or
There you go, Rem.
academic.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
So-
So, because his older brother Pat was the same
Yeah.
way, very
Oh, yeah.
smart guy, great hands.
Don't play cards against him.
No. Well, him and I were euchre partners, and so I know all his cheating habits. And by me really doesn't mean by me; it means he's loaded, and he wanted me to pick it up. So
Wow, there's a few stories we could tell about the Murray brothers. Going to Rem's wedding was an eye opener. Well, I guess I'd seen all that stuff before. It was not all at once, though. So.
well, it was funny because talking to Pat and Greg, they were in town a couple of years ago, and we all met up down at Bentley's. And they were just telling me, I said, we were talking about, Dave was there as well, the oldest brother. And I said, where's Rem? Yeah, Rem's wife doesn't like us very much. So I guess when Rem's around the three older brothers, he sometimes doesn't come home
Kim
very
stays
early.
home.
And yes, exactly.
Yeah, no. So Rem was there. No, when I went to Cape Breton, no. Louis DeBrusque was around, but he was up with the Oilers most of the time when I was there. So I spent full year in Cape Breton, and then had a couple stints up and down. This is back when you had to look for the transactions in the paper the next day.
Right.
So,
Yeah. There was no internet.
You look. That was the best part of it. Like, I don't even know if I could explain that to kids these days. That you had to look in the newspaper,
Right,
and to see where guys were going or had gone.
And all the former Coltons would be in bold. They'd be in bold in the paper. Yeah.
Like I remember being so excited Sunday mornings. I'd go and pick up a Sunday Sun, and then I'd go to one of the rinks. And just leafing through the sports section was, like amazing, because this is all pre-internet. Yeah. And so you're looking at all the stats, you're looking at, who's leading each division. And that's back when there were the Smythe and Norris and all of those. They were called those divisions, not like they are now for geography. But
Slats used to quiz us on it because, you didn't have, like nowadays, everybody
right
on the phone. But they used to quiz us on, like, who's in one place or like who's in second place, how many ties do they have, that kind of thing.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He
wow.
wanted you paying attention.
Yeah. Well, you know what? He was successful doing that, I guess. So you can't argue with.
He didn't have a bad team in Edmonton.
Not too bad. Too bad. So what was that like? Like when you were going to camp with Messier and?
No, they were all gone. They were all gone.
Okay.
I did play with Mess in New York.
Okay. Yeah.
That year, his last year actually.
Gotcha. Okay.
Actually, yeah, you should check the second assist on his goal that beat Gordie Howe's record.
It wouldn't be you on there, would it?
Off the glass and out.
Was that a free apple?
I think we were killing a 5-on-3, and Mess was at center ice, and somehow I flipped it out, and there he was, and broke the record.
What did you think about the Northlands Coliseum?
Yeah. I lived right across the street, so whenever I went up and down, we stayed in. There's a hotel right across the street, fine establishment. But we were there a lot. Like Northlands, what do I remember is Joey Moss.
Yeah.
Like that's my first, probably great training staff, like top-notch training staff, top-notch people. Joey being around all the time. Talking about Rem, we as Gary would know, I have a love for ping pong. And
yes, I do.
We had a table in the middle of the room in Edmonton, and so we'd play. Like guys would be playing. Like I could remember, Curtis Joseph playing, ping pong like 10 minutes before warm up. Like
really?
Finishing up a game, or like a game gets all of a sudden we're in the
right.
seventh game, and we got to finish this ping pong game. So, anyways,
tell them to hold warm ups. We got a big match going on here.
But Joey would after games, if you don't know the story about Joey Moss, he was a brother of I believe it was Wayne Gretzky's girlfriend at the time,
Vicky Moss.
Vicky Moss, and they took him on. He had Down syndrome, and they took him on in the dressing room, and he was part of their team for years. He would sing "Oh Canada." He was around.
Yeah.
It was just great. It was a great story. But he would vacuum the room 1 hour after the game, and it didn't matter what was going on. Like. The guys who tell stories that they won the Stanley Cup, and
right.
he's trying to vacuum through through the media, through the players. Like it was just so that's really what comes to mind for sure. Guys, just the guys, great training staff too.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it would have been like a great city to play in too. Like you hear, I remember when Messier was on Spit and Chicklets, and they were asking him what it was like, and he was like 19, and he's like, if you couldn't have fun in Edmonton at 19 playing for the Edmonton Oilers, then you got to look in the mirror. Like you guys, like as much as the fans and everyone in Stratford, appreciate the Cullens. Times that by a million, like that would have, because what else is in Edmonton, right? Like, so you guys would have been, front page, and was it like when you guys would go out, like Mess said that, surprisingly, and this is all before the internet, if you guys ever went out, but he said that when they would go out, that the fans were really respectful. Like they would give them their space. You didn't have like the crazies like you can today, right? Everyone can find out everything about people just opening up their phone. And he just said we never had any problems going out, for a drink or anywhere. And did you guys? Edmonton was a great spot. It was a lot of fun. We had a young team when I was there. The 2 years I played in the playoffs. We were 2 years that we had, we were down 3-1 in both first round series and came back and won in 7 games.
2 years in a row. We lost in the second round, but the euphoria probably went like this.
Right.
Went like this.
Yeah.
But there was amazing runs for us with Cujo and net, and a lot of good players. It was fantastic atmosphere, great place to play. Like I said, young team, so and the odd time we went out, sure, there was no issues.
Sure.
No issues.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Mess. You bring up him, Mess in New York. He said about going out and stuff like that. He said if you get in trouble in one bar, there's 15,000 other bars you can go to in New York. So
right.
Go find another one.
100. So then you get traded to Nashville with Drake Barahowski. I played with Drake in Barrie the one year when he was there before he went to the OHL. And
You were only in Nashville for a cup of tea, though.
I was. That's when I got there. It was kind of like, we're going to trade you to someone's interested in you. We're going to trade you. So I kind of sat around, waited. It was their inaugural year in Nashville, right? So I didn't play a lot at the start. I don't believe I played the first game because they had guys that had gone through training camp and they played their guys, which I completely understand because I just got there. And then they said, no, we're going to keep you. So what do? We go rent an apartment. Susie and I hit the grocery store on a Sunday morning, get the day off, get a whole bunch of groceries and stuff, and I get a call. Hey, we traded you. Anyways, the next
to Colorado.
Yeah, to Colorado.
Not a bad trade.
I was going to say, that's a pretty good deal for you.
No, it ended up being great. But it was funny because Colorado came back about 4 days later and played in Nashville, so Susie was still there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Her family was planning on coming down to watch the game. Me play for Nashville, but ended up here I am playing for Colorado.
For the other team.
Well, and people don't realize how much work the wives have to do when you guys get traded, right? You guys pack your clothes, you go and live in a hotel and play hockey. Well, the wives have to pick up the paces because you would have. How many kids did you have when?
Back then, none.
Oh, you didn't have any?
No, not till 2001. So that was
Okay.
what, 98 or what? Oh yeah, ton of work. I mean,
Because I remember when you won it in Colorado, you had Chloe out on the ice and had her in the cup and stuff. But
she was born that January.
Gotcha.
Of that year. But no, Susie, a ton of work. I could say that's probably why Susie. I'm moving again right now. We like to
Back
move.
to Sundridge?
We like to move back north, and Susie went away. Decided to go away.
Okay.
She loves moving so much. So I guess turnaround's fair play.
So then you're in Colorado. You become a fixture with the Avs defense with Rob Blake and Ray Bork. What was that like? You guys make a trade for Bork at the deadline because he's searching for his first cup. How did that change the room when he came in?
Yeah, all those guys you mentioned. Like I played with I don't know how many Hall of Famers. I'm not sure, 5, 6, 7. I'm not, great guys, but they were all great guys.
Yeah.
Fantastic organization. Borky was. It was very interesting to play with. Like great guy, but when he was ready to go on the ice, he's going on the ice. It's one of those like. It's not really first line, second line. Then the third line gets out there. It's like when he's rested, he's probably going back on the ice. Which, I believe at that point, he earned that.
Right.
But no, great as far as Patrick Waugh. I got to play in front of Patrick Waugh for
what was he
5
like?
years.
Like
great guy. Just competitor.
Did he have like a lot of superstitions? Like I know he wouldn't step on the blue line and he would talk to his post, but like you were probably one of his closest buddies. Like defensemen are always usually close to the goalies. What sort of things did you?
The best part about Patty is obviously his competitive nature. Practice. He was, lights out in practice. He's working hard, always working on things, always adjusting. Maybe you can't do it as much anymore with equipment, but always adjusting equipment. Like, putting more padding in here.
Right.
A goal went in here. Why? Why did it go in there? Like, I should have stopped it. So let's fix the equipment. Most goals, I would say 99% of the goals were his fault. Like he never blamed. Like he gets a lot of people get hard on him sometimes because he came out of the net to play the puck, or he did some silly things here and there. But he's always blaming himself. The only thing he didn't like was if you didn't work hard. If he thought you were not, working hard enough,
he'd call you out.
He might say something.
Right. Would he do it discreetly, or would he do it in front of?
Depends the situation and what do you think would be best suit the team. I always remember speeches before in the playoffs, and everybody would speak. The Joe, all the other captains, the coaches, and then Patty. would be at the
So he would get up
he
and-
may say something completely different than everybody else, and everybody else like, yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, whatever Patty says goes. We're gonna do what he says.
He was fantastic. You could go on for days with stories about him. He fantastic guy. Like just so competitive. Like I remember one of the first games I played with him, and maybe it was that Nashville game. I think we won 7-5, and everybody comes on the bus. Everybody's happy. 7-5 win. You get your 2 points. This guy's got +3. He was so mad like,
That he
came
let
on
5 in.
And that we're not going to win the playoffs, letting 5 goals in.
Right.
So that's just his mentality. He's
Super competitive.
Yeah.
Well-
Don't even get on to the story where I told Erik this the other day. I think they somehow we were in Anaheim, and Craig Billington, Bob Hartley pulled Patty to give us a bit of a time.
Who's the backup goalie?
Yeah. So we were down by a goal, and this is when Patty's in the all-time wins race.
Right.
And somehow I have to look back, but they pulled Patty to give the power play, because we had a power play, a couple minutes left in the game, some time to get fresh, and put Biller in, and we scored 2 in 30 seconds.
Oh, so now he's
Patty
not
doesn't
getting
get the
win.
So, anyways,
Oh,
that
boy.
was an interesting bus ride after. And stuff like that.
Oh man,
Oh, yeah, it was wild.
unbelievable. So you win the cup. You get Joe Sakic going over getting the cup from Gary Bettman.
Yep.
And the first guy he hands it to, it's not you, unfortunately, but
I was right there.
Ray
I was
Boy.
right there.
You thought he's coming to you, but then he
It's
skates
like
over
a
to
Peter
board.
Forsberg pass. He looks at me. He looks at Erik. He looks back at me, and he passes it to Erik.
Right?
Same guy.
Unbelievable. Looking at the talent, though, that you guys had on that team, like Deadmarsh and Forsberg,
Yeah.
Sakic,
For-
Hayduke. Like, it was
Stefan
ridiculous.
Yell, Erik Messier. We had
Forsberg's hands were just that good.
Adam. He was tremendous, and he just played too hard. He even in practice, I remember we played. Want to know where I improved as a player is practicing with the Avalanche. Bob Hartley was a hard coach, and we practiced hard. And I had to play 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 3-on-3 against those guys. So that's
Against Hall of Famers. That didn't hurt your
That's
your
where
talent.
I actually learned to play harder and play better.
Right.
And that's what they say is going on in the island right now with Waugh coaching there, is that these guys are working extra hard in practice for him.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't even use a whistle, they were saying. He
Really?
whistles by himself, and everybody just stops.
Tabernacle to call Lisa and all that.
Yeah, the French swear word.
Yeah.
I played in Barrie with a couple of French Canadians, and they would teach me all the French swear words, and I'm like, oh goodness. You end up signing with the Rangers as a free agent in 2003. How did you like your time in New York?
Really interesting. I played with some interesting players there too, some great players. Messier, Bobby Holik had just signed there. Big E, Eric Lindros was there. Jagger ended up being there at the end of the year, Kovalev, just some unbelievable. Brian Leach was there. I could go on. There was some unbelievable players, but not a good mix to win, put it that way.
Right.
The late Chris Simon was there, great guy.
Right,
Matthew
yeah.
Barnaby. We had Darius Kasparaitis was my partner. It was just it
Wow.
was quite a crew. Fantastic. New York was very interesting. You look back and you think, why did I? Slats came to me at the trade deadline in New York and had mentioned I hadn't missed the playoffs up until that point. So he mentioned, we're moving the older guys. Would you like to go somewhere? So he kind of gave me a little bit of a choice to go somewhere. And,
Right.
and that year he traded one player or gave away a player to every Canadian team, which, So
Wow.
Yeah. So
That was pretty nice of him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like
it's a
to
good-
let you go and pick
Yeah, oh,
where
yeah,
you wanted
yeah,
to go,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I know. Pretty much pick. He gave me a couple teams, but he was. But New York was very interesting. I would have been awesome to play there for a good team.
Right.
Like, it's just the atmosphere. Like, you play well in the first, they're cheering. You come out in the second, have a terrible first minute, they're all over you. So it was really interesting.
And so, with you being a family man at this point, were you living out in Rye, like where a lot of the players were?
I was up north. Yeah, I was
Okay.
up north. Yeah.
Because I remember you telling me the one story at the gym the one time. You were saying that you were. I can't remember if it was a game or I think it was a game, and you were driving down and
Got stuck.
The traffic
it
is
was
so bad.
from here to the arena way, and didn't move for probably half hour. So the valet where we parked our car came and sat in my car for me, and I just walked to the game.
You walk. That's unbelievable.
What
Downtown
an
Manhattan.
atmosphere!
So it's like Toronto now, basically, the way that traffic is.
Yeah, our practice rink was in the north, so I lived up by the practice rink. Yeah.
I remember Tim saying that when we had Tim Taylor
Actually,
on.
his house was the house that he lived in when he was there, and the house that I bought were basically backyards.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I found that out later, but yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of funny, but yeah.
Like he said, if he would have been single and an early, like a rookie or young, he would have been living downtown in Manhattan. Yeah. But when you're a family guy, he said, you want to be in a neighborhood, and that's where most of the family guys lived, was out in Rye. But like that's you could just have so many things to do. Like there's not a sleepless night in New York. So
no, yeah, we had Chloe, and then Luke was born that year. We actually bought a house and lived in a hotel for the first 3 months because the house wasn't ready when we got there. So we lived in a hotel. So that was quite an experience.
Goodness, yeah, with 2 young kids, even
Two
better.
young kids, yeah. Chloe running the hallways. So
it wasn't a seedy hotel like the Super 8.
No, it was a decent hotel. It was a decent hotel. Yeah, good.
I've seen some seedy hotels in New York.
No.
You get traded to Ottawa at the March 2004 deadline, and you basically had a cup of coffee there. But that's tell us about Ottawa. Like what?
Quick. It was quick. I went there for the playoff run, and we had a really good team. We just for some reason we couldn't. Soon as and I sometimes you look back. Why didn't I do? Why didn't I talk more? Do more in the dressing room, because we ended up the last couple of games. It ended up we played against Toronto. Like we were going to match up against Toronto. And it was just like, boom. Team was just completely deflated. Like some great players.
Was
there.
Alfredson there?
Alfredson was there. Yeah. Oh yeah. Great. Spezza. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some. Chara, Redden,
yep.
and Phillips were on D. I mean, really good lineup. Just something mentally. We lost to Toronto in 7 games, and thank God Toronto got past the first round, because that was the last time Toronto got past the first round. So every year that Toronto goes into the playoffs, they would show highlights from that game. So I'm like,
dear.
So no,
we have never had anyone been asked to leave, but
it's not a bad thing. You got past the first round.
The DeVries curse is on them, I guess. Now they can't do it anymore.
I was on the ice for a couple goals against too. So
was that Paddy Leem was your goalie that year?
Paddy Leem was our goalie that year.
Yeah, great goalie.
Yeah, he was a good guy. Like I said, really good team, bunch of good players. Just unfortunately had something mentally that Toronto was just.
Right.
That's when the Battle of Ontario meant something. Like it was huge, right?
Yeah. Was that with Tucker? Was it Tucker playing for
Tucker
Toronto at the
was
time?
there. They had an older team.
Right.
They had traded for Brian Leach. That was the player that left.
Right.
New York.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had an older team, more experience, Nieuwendyk and these guys, but we should beat them.
Was Rob Ray on your team? Was Rob Ray on that team?
He was.
Yeah.
Is that the year Tucker went into the bench after him, or was that the year before?
I don't know if Razor.
No,
because Razor didn't. I don't know if Razor dressed. We had a lot of good players that were in the stands too.
So then, after the 2004 lockout, you and Marion Hoser traded to Atlanta for Danny Heatley. I did not know that.
Yeah, it was a wild experience too. I went into Ottawa, and then the lockout was the next year, so I didn't really get established or have a real good connection with Ottawa. So I knew I probably was going to get moved at some point. But then, as soon as they announced, Haas was on an airplane ride back home because he had come over and negotiated. I believe he signed the deal with Ottawa before he got traded.
Okay.
So he was on the way back home, and they announced this trade, but they won't say who the second player is in the trade because they got to let Marion know first. And I'm looking at this like, okay, Ottawa, you're getting rid of some salary. Going to Atlanta, where Bob Hartley was, where I played with him for 5 years in Colorado.
Right.
I know it's me.
Sure.
Like, I'm calling. I'm like, can you just tell me it's me? Because I know it's me. No, we can't tell you. So it was like a day and a half or whatever until they got a hold of Haas, and then they finally said, yeah, it was you. It's you.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So I had a chance to speak with Anthony Stewart a couple weeks ago at the Waterloo game. He's the president of the Siskins right now. What were your thoughts about playing in Atlanta? He said he loved it.
Yeah, I didn't mind Atlanta at all. I was there for 2 full years. Really enjoyed the crew. We had Scott Mellenby's one name that comes to mind. He was there, and Bobby Holik from New York days was there. So we had a good group of guys. I knew the system because I was playing for Bob again. But Atlanta itself was fine. It was we went down. We practiced up by us a lot of times. Went downtown. Not all the time. It was enjoyable. I mean, you get traffic here and there, but we lived up north in a golf course community, and I played. I mean, it wasn't terrible. I played golf. Nobody else was on the golf course because it was too cold, and here I am wheeling around the golf course.
Yeah, because he mentioned that. He said, because we talked about the thoughts of the NHL going back to Atlanta for a third time, and he said if they put the arena in the right spot, they'll be okay, because he says in the northern part of it, there's a lot of Canadian people that go down there.
Yeah, that, and they better win. I think the problem is we didn't. It wasn't a lot of success in Atlanta. I mean, we made the playoffs one of the years I was there. We got. I think we lost to the Rangers. I think we got swept, I believe. But they gotta have to have a successful team. I mean, I don't.
That's the thing with those Southern U.S. teams. Like, I remember a couple of years ago, you couldn't give away Panthers tickets. Like, you could, sit in the lower bowl for probably $50, and then all of a sudden they start winning. And going to a Lightning game, like, they're one of the most expensive tickets in the league, other than Vegas, just because they've won so much. And so winning will bring the fans down there. It's not like Toronto where, win or lose, they're going to sell out every night. Like, the tickets are paid for. Now, there might not be bums in the seats in the lower bowls, but at least they've been paid for. But, down in the South, you have to win. Arizona, like, these teams that don't have win. Atlanta, if you don't win, then they're not going to come out and support you, unfortunately.
For sure. My only regret in Atlanta is that I had a chance to. We didn't. I don't know why we didn't come up with this earlier, but they had a East Coast team, Gwinnett, right beside where I lived.
Oh, really?
And Erik, where'd you go off to that year? Where did you play that year?
In the East Coast?
So that year that I was, because it should have came down. It's unfortunate we didn't set it up. Could have came down to Gwinnett and played. And we could have shared a house and had a lot of fun.
A lot of golf.
Taking some money off the golf.
Yeah, a lot of golf.
No chance.
Yeah, I think you were in Europe at that time, Erik.
What year was that?
Well, because you played for Milwaukee in 01 to 03, Toledo 02, 03, and Cincinnati 01, 02. Yep. And then you went over to England.
Yeah, Sheffield or the Hurley Hornets.
Sheffield for 2 years, then over to Denmark for the Herlew Hornets.
I think that was the year.
That might be where it was, yeah.
And then the Wolf Freiburg.
Then over into Freiburg. Yeah, for a brief stint.
And what are your thoughts of playing over there?
It was a lot of fun. It was different. The fans were great. They were crazy, just like you see on TV and some of the soccer games, and there were fires in the stands, and you had little dances you did after games, and then you always skated around the rink, and the fans would hang over. So it was a pretty cool experience. England was really good. They were passionate. We'd get 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 a game.
And you won a championship your first year.
Yeah, our first year they had, regular season is always the biggest, right? Like, that's the main trophy. We won that. We won the playoffs, and then there's a Challenge Cup, they call it, which is, I don't know if it's the top teams or whatever from different, and we won that. So we won all three, which was crazy. And I mean, we had a lot of fun, and we always say it was probably the most fun. The first, couple years, the most fun we had playing, because pre-kids, we had our daughter over there.
Right.
Our second year, but the first year was our real successful year, and we had a lot of fun.
That's
Some
awesome.
Good pubs, good people.
Yeah, and winning too, right?
Winning
like that
hurt. Yeah,
changes everything.
Yeah, but I remember the first game, we come off the plane, and I think I was over on my own. Karen hadn't come yet, and another guy had flown in the same day, Canadian guy, and we get into London. And I think it was Ali Pally, might have been the name of the arena.
Hey.
And
anybody watch darts?
Yeah.
That's the Ali Pally.
Okay, so you saw the big part. Like, it was the
180.
The little dive off of the side of it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We weren't in the good part.
Jockey Wilson requires 30 points.
So you were kind of off to the side.
And so it had to be just a little jot off the side of that nice area or the bigger area. And we walk out and we walk into the rink, this guy and I, and we carrying our bags in on our own because we just flown in, just got off the plane. And we look at the arena, it's small arena, and there's mesh around, there's no glass. And we kind of looked at each other like, what's happening? Like, what's going on? And sure as heck, we played there, and the puck, the refs, it was their judgment call on how high the puck was in the net. And if they felt it was higher than glass, they'd blow it down. But the puck would go into the net, and it would just shoot straight back at you.
Really? Wow.
There goes all my assists.
I know.
Off the net, no.
Gregor, you would not have done well there.
Off the net,
That's
hits you.
incredible.
You
Comes
throw
right
that
back
in the
out,
net, it's
right?
coming
That
back
is
at you.
crazy.
Yeah, so it was pretty wild, and we looked at each other like, what have we done? Like, what are we doing?
Right.
And turned out okay. That rink didn't last. I think about halfway through the season they deemed it unsafe.
I don't know why, but
And then
Why?
we went under some other dive. Yeah, it was a great experience. We had a lot of fun. Had some good teams, which was nice too, and did some winning, which made it even better.
and so then you come back to North America with the UHL with the Elmira Jackals.
Yeah, the U-Haul.
Tell some stories about
one
the
last
bus rides
year,
here.
It was funny because we were supposed to be really good, like because we had guys coming back from overseas and different leagues, and when you look on paper, like there was some really good players, and we get in there and like you said, it was a good team on paper, but not a good team to win.
Right.
And we had great bus road trips, and I was always in the front playing cards, and then we'd be after the game we'd lose because we did a lot of it. We were okay, but we did more losing, and the bus would stop after the game, and all of a sudden half the bus rolls off the bus and into a bar, and half goes back to the hotel. We had a game the next day, and so the buses stop, and it was a tough situation. The coach was younger than me. I had played with him, and I mean he threw him to the wolves. And find out on the back of the bus there's cocaine flying around.
Really?
On the bus, and
Wow.
it makes sense now as to why we weren't any good.
Yeah.
But, it was an interesting year, and that's
You guys sound
that's when I
like, what
quit
was
hockey.
that team? The Danbury
Thrashers.
Thrashers.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was the way I quit hockey.
Right. You're like, I've seen enough here. And
I've
then
seen it all.
We had the boys. The twins were born in Elmira, and I thought, like, how are we doing this again?
Right.
Coding 3 kids around, and so I quit.
Yeah. Came
'Cause you
back
don't
to
retire-
Stratford.
You don't retire from the U-Haul, you quit.
Yeah.
So,
Just a quick question for you there, Erik. And obviously, you played some great hockey. You had some great success with your NCAA experience. I did notice that you went undrafted, and I think, I'm just looking for maybe a little bit of input. That was kind of the time in the NHL or where the profile hockey player was like your strong power forward, was it big and stuff like that? Or what do you think it was? Because I think it's very obvious that you could have really given yourself an opportunity to carry on, or is it just what it was? Or
yeah, I don't know. I was, I guess, definitely back at that time I was probably undersized. But I don't know. To me, that's an excuse. For whatever reason, it just didn't work out.
and not that it matters. I was just kind of wondering
No,
because
for
it
sure.
was
Yeah, no.
lots of great accolades through your career.
No, totally. As far as getting drafted, I think my draft year I was in Stratford, so it was uncommon to get drafted out of probably junior B at that time. A little more the USHL nowadays. It tends to happen more, but I don't know. For whatever reason, it just didn't work out. I had a chance at camp a couple years in Nashville, signed with Nashville out of school. Just for whatever reason, it didn't pan out, didn't work out, and topped overseas. So
Yeah.
but it's hard to say why. Probably my agent, but That's,
Yeah.
that's a joke. that's what they always say. My agent's fault.
And
but
not to put you on the spot, it's like I said, there's lots of accolades for a skilled hockey player that you were, and you got to experience.
Definitely had some really good years at different levels, but didn't play out that way, to maybe get that chance.
Well, it looks like things have worked out for you. All right, you're
Everything worked out all right, and I got great family, and married to Greg's Susie's youngest sister, and
Karen. Karen and Susie are sisters, and a lot of people, don't realize that, with the connection and stuff. But it's great to have you back in town, and you guys just opened up today with the Dairy Queen. They're the owners of the Dairy Queen, so shout out to everyone
today.
Blizzard in a blizzard.
Oh,
right?
dear.
I saw that on
That's
social
good news.
media. The lady that got her first blizzard.
Yeah, Barb.
Barb. It
was pretty cold out there. She was our first two customers. She came and got her treat, and Barb's great. She's our neighbor, so she's been counting down the days, and so she came and got her treat, and then she went to the car dealership or something like that, and told the guys at the shop that the Dairy Queen's open, and then they said, yeah, it's not open. And so she came back, bought dilly bars to take to the shop to prove that we were open.
So this is
Thanks,
news
Barb.
to us, because we went to your last night that you're open, because we're pretty big fans. But that'll be good. Jen will be excited.
Exactly.
So we'll be back in the saddle.
And
Thanks
so
for opening.
Schmidt,
Is that early for you guys?
It is. The last few years we've been March 1st. We used to open in February, but then kind of got pushed back with everything that went on a few years back, and just decided to open earlier, and we'll stay open a little longer this year.
Perfect. That's
Right.
great
I just
news.
want to see up on the
that
ladder
is.
putting the sign up in the
I was
cold.
up there today.
You didn't tell me. I would have come by.
We always talk about, too, and just really quickly with the staff that you have there, and when we go there, man, it is hammer down for them, from shift to shift.
They work really hard. Yeah,
they
do.
And they do such a great job. You've got a lot of young people in there, and just kudos to you and Karen, because I know it's not easy to be hammered down like that all the time, but they do a great job.
It gets busy. The kids are great, and that's Karen does all the hiring, and a lot of it has to do with her too. She's really good with the kids, and they like her, they respect her. So
How many years now?
this is our 18th.
Is that right?
18th season,
Wow.
yeah.
I always thought you sold
Yeah.
hoodies with Blizzard on, that were painted on or silk screened on. No, that's the real thing.
That's the real deal there, yeah.
And
for
the Bo Anderson tab is non-existent.
he's busted
18
that thing.
years.
early.
Yes.
He will tell you it is, but it's not.
Don't listen to him. He's full of it.
Well, congrats. 18
Yeah,
seasons.
18, yeah.
Good for you.
I got a
Been good.
question for Colin a bit. You grew up in Stratford, so you knew what it was like to play at the Allman Arena. What was your first time dressing up as a Colton, though, at the Allman Arena?
When was it, or what was it like?
What was it like?
It was. I think my first time playing for the team was on the road in Kitchener against the Dutchmen. There was a guy that played there named Steve Vanderveen. It's a pretty tall guy. I remember.
Yeah.
And TU gave me a kick in the backside and said, "Schmidt, get out there and see what you can do with this guy." And of course, I thought I'd take a run at Mr. Vanderveen. It didn't go so well for me at that time. So it was that was my experience, and the first time in a Stratford jersey, because TU at that point was still in Stratford. So that was game one. First time dressing at home. That was a lot more special.
Yeah.
Because you got your friends are there, and your family's there, and you might not. I think at that point I probably maybe got a few shifts in, but they were special. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
TU's name keeps coming up. I actually just talked to him this afternoon, so he said to say hi to you guys.
Oh, good.
You've had him on.
We've had him on
we've
a
had
couple
a
of
couple times,
times.
yeah.
He's entertaining.
Was he a forward coach, D coach?
Well,
What
he
was
was D coach, but because I was a local guy, and I think at that time when I played minor hockey, I played with a pretty good chip on my shoulder. So I think TU too liked
Read
what I was
that.
doing at that point, and yeah, so he was a big fan of that. And I run into him at the dog park all the time, right? Because he's like a staple out
Yeah.
there, and so he's. I don't know that he's so happy to see me, but he's super happy to see the dogs.
He's more happy to see the dog.
Yeah, for sure. That isn't even a question for sure.
Him and I had a love-hate relationship for sure. Like, obviously, he was very helpful for me, but I remember, I believe I walked off the bench one night. You know, I just couldn't take him anymore. We just got into it. But
Right.
his big thing was he knew college wasn't for me. He was very adamant that I should scrap
Right.
college and go to the OHL. So
Yeah.
he was always all over my dad too, all the time, telling him, you're going the wrong road. You're going the wrong road. So
Now, to go to his team or just to go to
Nope.
the O
just
in
to go
general?
no, just in general. I
Gotcha.
don't even know if maybe he was affiliated with someone back then. I'm not
Right.
even sure.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
just in general. Just knew my game.
Yep.
I benefit from the more games.
Sure.
That kind of atmosphere. So he
Yeah,
was-
the O structure
He was
and
awesome.
like, let's face it, like if your goal, like, and Tim's even said it, he goes, I love playing in Stratford, but I wasn't, in love with the academic side of it, and he wanted to play. He goes, my focus was the NHL, and I'm sure you probably were like, I'm not I'm not going to be on the dean's list. Maybe I should go the OHL, and that'll be my fast track to the NHL. Like, would that be accurate?
Yeah,
or?
for sure. I mean, I'm not a terrible student by any means.
No,
I
no,
just
no,
didn't,
but-
I just went down and had way too much fun.
Sure.
Put it simply as that. But no, yeah, it was. He was always pushing me in that direction. But when you're speaking of businesses, I think this guy might just purchased a new business.
Well,
in
we're going to
town.
mention that because,
I think
like,
that's the coffee on the tables, isn't it?
Well, no, it was closed. So
Bear with us.
I had to go somewhere else.
So for those that don't know, Colin and Steph, his wife, have purchased Revel Cafe downtown, and
Which
so-
is an absolute staple
absolutely
in downtown
Yeah.
Stratford with every sort of customer, from anybody and everybody that goes there. Just working downtown here as well with my shop, you see the cups all around downtown, and our clients come in with your products and stuff. So big congratulations to you
Yeah,
guys.
that's
what
awesome.
a great,
Super cool.
great opportunity for you guys
Yeah,
to
we're
carry
excited.
on.
We're excited. I think Steph will be more involved in the day-to-day than I will. I'll continue to do my full-time gig, but we've for quite a while wanted to do something together. The real impetus for us actually was less about that, and I of course was listening to podcasts, and it got me thinking. Like the people you go to school with or you play hockey with, you're together so much.
Right.
It's about 350 times a year, right? If you're at school every day and you see some guys in sports and all that sort of stuff. And then when you get to about 50, this is where they're going on the podcast, you get to about 50, and if you see your good friends once a month, that's pretty darn good at this
Right.
stage in life, right? Over the next 30 years, you're only going to see that person about the same amount of times you would have seen them in one school year.
Right.
And that's why your friendships from when you're a child mean so much. They've got so much depth, right? And so part of the reason of buying the store was because it's a place for us to gather with our friends and our family more, right? Because it's not very hard to go out and grab a coffee or go grab a Blizzard, and you get to see people. But you get to that stage, and it's like, okay, well, how do I want to spend my time, and who do I want to spend it with?
Mm-hmm.
And so the big driver for this was really that more than anything. So over this past weekend, my parents were there. I had aunts and uncles that were there. Some of their friends were there.
Amazing.
Some of our friends that we haven't seen in a while were all there. And so
Just wait till the good weather comes
Yeah.
along, and you guys have a patio out back.
there is a patio out back, and I think in the past they've done the patio out front as well. So,
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, Anne, who owned it previously, uncompromising on quality, so that was a big check mark for us. If we're going to do something, we want to do it right. And then, of course, that gives you an opportunity to scaffold on top of something, right? So there's certain things that we want to do that are probably a little different than what you've seen in that environment in the past. But we can take this amazing foundation, and then all we have to do is scaffold.
That's really exciting because you have the audience, and when you do your stamps on the business and how you guys want to carry forward with it, that'll be exciting to watch.
Yeah,
Good
we're
stuff.
excited. We're super excited.
I thought it was cool. I was reading where Anne took you guys down to St. Thomas, I believe, to introduce.
Steph and Ann went down. Yeah,
Okay.
so one of the things that they do, and I don't know all the details, so I'm probably going to botch this a little bit, but I think I'll get the essence of it. The roastery is based in St. Thomas. It's two sisters, and I don't know which country in South America. Steph will probably.
I thought it
beat me
was
up for this.
Colombia.
Very
but
well could be.
I forget, yeah.
But that would make sense. And their dad had a farm down there, and for years I think Anne took that entire crop, and then it would come in and get roasted. And I think over the years when they do this rotation, it's all fair trade coffee, and then Anne takes it a step further, and she'll take an entire crop from a really small farm, and then it gets roasted to the standards that they want. And Anne had just a really special relationship with that family, and
That's awesome.
And that's continued, and so they kind of passed the torch, and they've been really, really good advocates of ours since we've kind of started down this. Yeah, so we're pretty excited.
Same bean for every.
Same bean
Different
on the
roast.
farm,
Yeah.
and then you adjust the roast and do all this. And I'm sure I'm screwing this up like really, really,
Sounds
really
good.
bad.
Sounds good to me.
It's-
You had
it's-
us fooled.
What I can say for sure is I'm directionally going in the right way, but I'm sure I'm I wasn't able to make it down there because I'm still doing my normal full-time gig, so I unfortunately didn't get to go to that session. But I know Steph came back, and I mean, she was floating, like her feet barely hit the ground. She was
Amazing.
Yeah.
so jacked about it.
Amazing. Like, talk about your feet floating. Like, just looking at the stuff. Like, I remember talking to you when you were working for BlackBerry, Research and Motion, and when it was in its heyday, you worked yourself up to senior director, North American Retail and Distribution Channel. And I remember talking to you down at the arena. And I'd say, hey, Schmidt, what were you up to? Razor, I was just out in Vegas, and I was, with some of our biggest clients. Like, you were dealing with the Walmarts and all of those guys.
You get a crash course in how to negotiate.
Yeah.
It was, you're dealing with some really, really tough cookies when it comes to running businesses.
Right.
And needing to know your numbers and going in with a plan. And they've gone to... I think if I'm being honest, I probably pull on my psychology degree more than my business degree at this point in my career and with what I do. Just
Right.
when you're going into those, it's a bit of a mental pretzel. So
Because you were saying, like, you guys were, like, Rim was giving you guys suites to wine and dine these guys, like, with...
well, yeah, and that was the way. That was actually saving money. So this kind of sounds like girl math here for a second. But I mean, you'd go down to these great big conferences, and you would spend $250,000 to have a place on the show floor, right? Or you could get a really nice suite. Like, we'd get the one in Vegas at the old Hard Rock, and it had a bowling alley in it.
Right. Yeah,
So,
I remember you saying
so-
that. Yeah,
so you
yeah.
have that, and
Eric has a ball, I believe.
I gave it to Luke. Luke has it. Storm El Nino 2000.
but anyway, it was like by factors more
Right.
affordable, and it was what people would rather do. Like, we had Chris Angel,
The magician.
illusionist.
Illusionist.
Yeah, so he'd come in
Mind
and we'd do
freak.
stuff, and we could do that. And I think we had, I think it was Stone Temple Pilots play at one of them one time, and you'd do all
Wow.
that, and it was cheaper
Wow.
than having a booth on the show floor. And which one do you think people wanted to spend their time at?
Yeah.
Right. Because what was that? The electronics show
That was
in
CES.
Vegas?
That was CES.
Okay.
There was two shows that I had to go to each year. One was the Consumer Electronics Show that was just after New Year's, just after Christmas, and then there was another one called I think it was the wireless. It was more about the wireless industry, so it was all the carriers like your Verizons,
Right.
and,
AT&T
O2 would come over from Europe, and
Yep.
all the Canadian guys, and we do that sort of stuff. So yeah, I did that. I was RIM employee for exactly 10 years and 1 week. Yeah.
And
My thumb
I was reading.
really misses. My thumb
Yeah.
really misses this.
They
I
were still
hated
the
it.
best.
Like, I remember I was on a plane when BlackBerry was no longer,
Yeah.
and I ended up getting my first iPhone, and I hated the iPhone, and so I wanted to get used to it. So I transferred all of my contacts on a 5-hour plane ride to Phoenix, from Toronto to Phoenix, and I transferred all of them, going there and coming back, and like my thumbs were like absolutely just, I thought I had paralyzed them, but BlackBerry was it, and like Jim Basile, like him and Lazaridis, and tell us, like, did you have any information about when Basile almost had the Penguins, almost had the Coyotes? Like, what happened there?
I was there for all of that, and there was another buying group that another senior employee was involved with as well, I think, at the time. Yeah, it was. There were some wild times in those years, but if you were to take a look at kind of the RIM alumni or the OGs and kind of look at where they're at, I mean, the guy running Sonos,
Patrick Spence.
Yeah, he's former BlackBerry.
Married to a local girl, Aaron Eberhardt.
Yeah, that's right. There's just, I mean, there's not very many tech companies where that alumni
happens.
isn't touching something that's going on in the world.
Like, I remember reading about, I think it was Aaron. So Aaron is good friends with my ex-wife, and she used to tell Jen how, RIM had the staff party, and they rented the where the Rangers play, the auditorium, and Aerosmith played. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like the
best concert I ever saw, and I've been to a few concerts. The best concert I ever saw was actually at Best Buy, and they had their hockey arena, and it was CCR came on.
Really?
And just rocked. I was like, this is not what I was expecting. And nobody knew who the band was.
Right.
And they came out and just, I think it was actually just Fogarty. Maybe it might not have been the entire CCR, but he came out and just belted out the CCR tunes, and it was
going up around the bend.
it was amazing. It was absolutely
Here we
amazing.
Unbelievable.
And another local connection to RIM that is still in it, and actually I guess would be competing with Patrick, is Rick Costanzo.
Yes, because he was another RIM alumni, and he went to Europe, I remember.
Yeah, he was actually South America for the most part early on, and then went over there, and I think he's with, is it B&O now? But anyway, it's another one of the music guys.
Because you ended up moving on, you became executive partner with TKG, the cruise group. What exactly is that?
That's actually most of my old team from RIM. So then we went and we basically just took the blueprint from BlackBerry and then expanded it into other brands. So took products to market. Got a lot of brands either that had a really good footing in North America that wanted to go global. We would help them expand outside of North America, and as it were, we ended up going in the opposite direction too. So some really strong European brands that wanted to have a North American presence, we would introduce those in there, because I just had an all-star team when I was at RIM that had, highly coveted relationships with the likes of Costco, Walmart, Best Buy, and some of the best distributors in consumer electronics around the world. So, we could use that. It's like it's just like athletics. You make those connections and you have those relationships, and people want to do business with people that they know and that they feel they can trust and that they want to spend time with. And so if you can be a good human, and one of the things in business, you can read all the books you want, there's not a lot of secrets in it. Like, you obviously need to be able to run a P&L and all that stuff, but the more important thing is, like, can you lead with kindness?
Right.
Like, can you be kind?
What is your value add?
Well, yeah, I mean, people come and want to spend time with you. They're choosing to spend their money with you. Lead with kindness, like, like people have things going on, and if you can help them out, then try and help them out.
And a lot of the time, the business that you're doing is profitable and in a lot of people's best interest, but you need the people skills to get the communication started. Just with you in my simple small business, but we do barbering and all that, but I always find that we're in the people business, and the barbering is a byproduct, because we know we can barber the biggest thing is we need to provide a sound customer service so that people want to come back and stuff like that too.
Humans crave connection. That's
100%.
what we are. We're a species that wants that sort of stuff. So, business is just one manifestation of that, right? Like,
And you're also the senior vice president. Is it Pella or Pila? Pila?
Yeah, the company's actually called Open Mind Developments. One of the brands is Pila. It was the world's first compostable phone case. So sold millions of them. It's a Canadian company. So essentially you use your phone case. It's as protective as an OtterBox would be, but when you're done with it, you can put it into your home compost and it's not creating plastic all over the world. It was founded by a guy in Saskatchewan who, as a child, he's actually my age, his 76th birth year. He was in a truck with his dad going across the prairies, and at the end of the harvest, they've got all this flax shive, very, very hard, very, very firm, and all they would do with it is burn it at the end of the season. And he'd ask his dad, like, why are they doing that? And he said, well, it's very hard and there's not much you can do with it. And so that stuck with him from the time he was a child. And then went to university and became kind of a soil scientist and all that. And he kept coming back to this idea, well, if it's that hard, then there's got to be a utility for it. And it ended up getting weaved into a biopolymer that's safe. It doesn't create microplastics, and it firms up the case. And it's turning something that was unused into something that's useful. And so that's the one product. And so for the longest time, they had this. The compost facilities didn't know it was compostable, so they'd refuse it, right, when they were sorting. And so the next opportunity was to, like, take that all back. So they'd take it back. You were done with your case, send it back to us. We'll do what's called regrind it. We'll grind it and then either put it into compost or we can put it back into another phone case. But as a B Corp that's really focused on sustainability, you're still burning jet fuel and you're not really creating a great negative or a great carbon story. So we're like, well, what if we could take the composter to the person? And so we came up with another product called Lomi, which is a kitchen counter composter. And as it turned out, you can put all your food scraps into it and it'll take, all that green bin stuff that we're doing. Mine never gets smelly. I never get fruit flies. I can fill the thing up. It takes me about a month and a half, 2 months to fill up my green bin before I need to put it out. If it's in the summer, I just spread it around the grass and off you go. It's like a Scott's fertilizer. So it's a really great company.
Nice.
There's not to become a B Corp. If you ever looked at what all goes into that, it's a tremendous amount of work.
I used to work for
cost.
Davinus, which is a professional hair care line, and I've seen it all. They're out of Parma, Italy, and it's huge. Yeah. And you have that title. Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow, folks, when you're done playing hockey, stay in school.
That's incredible.
That is
incredible
amazing.
information.
That is amazing. Well, Les, what?
Well, I was just going to go back to something. Colin was up on the broadcast, and you told me a story about Kirk Flaxey.
Oh, Flax.
And the 50-50 draw.
Yeah, he won not too long ago, and when he played a year before I came with Erik, right? You had Flax the year before, but his last year, he was a 20-year-old, so he was a really good player. He's just one of those guys that if he had really leaned into the game, probably could have played a little bit longer, and in his last year, I think we got to Christmas time and he was getting frustrated, so he started buying 50-50 tickets and stuffing them into his glove and he'd be pulling them out on the bench. And so he finally won just a few weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, well, you're probably back to even, Flax.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
That's wild.
We bought tickets all the time,
Yeah.
pooled together as a team. Or
Yeah.
We are live guys, so we really appreciate the viewers that are watching and listening and so on.
The wives are watching.
The wives are watching,
Making
and
comments.
we have one from your wife, yours.
Yeah.
And she put, I love that back in the day they used to use the boys' actual first names, not the last name or nickname. Greg, like on your coat.
Yeah. It's actually not even my first name. My first name is William. So
Oh, wow.
Wow.
William Gregory.
So Susie,
not
you
sure
can
how,
take that up on the way back to Sunridge,
Right.
I guess.
Yeah, that is funny. I don't. That's a nice coat, though. It is a really nice coat.
It is
so I
a
told
nice
Erik,
coat.
I'm gonna buy another motorbike and start riding.
Well, you can
Wear
do
that,
like what
baby.
Mike Pierce did. I told you the story before we came on the show. Mike Pierce, I was at a Cullet and Pigtail dinner a few years ago, and Piercy's like, big guy and definitely a lot bigger than he was when he was 17. And I looked at him and I'm like, dude, like that coat fits perfectly. Like, what the hell's going on? Like, I know you didn't order a size that big thinking when you're an adult. And he looks around and he goes, I ended up going into Martin Sports when it was still in town. And he said, I ended up getting all the emblems taken off of it. He said, and then I ordered a coat that fit me today and had them all sewn back on, and I'm
sounds like a
dying
lot of
laughing.
work.
Like that
That's
was
dedication.
hilarious.
That
Hilarious.
happened outdoor game I played in. I played in the Avalanche Red Wings outdoor game. I think it was maybe 2016, and we were in Coors Field, and we could hear mumbling and someone talking because we were in the baseball dressing room, and they cut it in half because it's a massive dressing room. And behind the curtain, you could hear someone mumbling and arguing and whatever. And Mike Keane wheels over and pulls the door, and it's Claude Lemieux getting a trainer trying to cut his pants, the hockey pants, so he could get into them.
Oh, really?
Sorry, Pepe, if you're listening. Put on. He's a big man, so.
So,
Right.
speaking about Colorado, Detroit, you were obviously after the brawl.
I was the year after, yeah.
Yeah. So there was that rivalry is still pretty big when they play each other. What was it like for you?
Yeah, it was absolutely unreal. Just that arena, Joe Louis Arena, the fans are right on top of you. Just some funny stories from there. I mean, the hockey was fantastic. Like, look at all the players. I got a great picture at home. It's, well, I should ask Susie. I think it's Rob Blake, Patrick Waz in the background. I think it's Iserman, maybe Shanahan, and then one of the players and then I'm in the picture as well, and they were selling it upstairs at Joe Louis Arena. And I'm like,
That's
that picture. So Susie got one and got everybody to sign it. So
Nice.
it's a pretty good picture.
Nice.
But yeah, just unbelievable rivalry. Like playing against that team, they were quite a team. Like we went in there the year after we won. We ended up playing them in the conference final, and unfortunately for us, first 2 rounds we didn't play as well as we should have. We went 7 games, and then we went 7 in the final again. At that point, that's
Gassed.
a lot of hockey.
Yeah.
That's a lot of hockey. So I mean, I'm not going to blame it on being tired or anything like that. It's the 7th game. You're gonna give everything you got. But they got a couple goals on us, and I think we ended up losing the game 7-1 or something like that.
Oh,
in the
really?
7th game. So unfortunate because we went. I think they went on to play maybe Carolina or someone in the final and walked all over them. So
Right.
but Scotty Bowman, once again, stories coming from. He used to paint the dressing room like 3 hours before we get there.
In oil.
Oh yeah, like just you can walk in there and it's just unbelievable. Like you couldn't even breathe.
Right.
Like stuff like
What,
drop
sorry,
us off.
What did he do? Paint?
Paint the dressing room like fresh paint.
Not with latex, with oil
Oh, yeah.
base, right?
You
like
walk
where
in,
your
the
head's
dressing room just
Tim
stinks.
mentioned
tearing
that.
off.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's
radio
a pig's
stations.
trick, I think. Holy
Right.
Radio stations calling your hotel back in the day when at all hours of the night you'd answer the phone thinking it was it's a radio station asking you like the stupidest question.
Yeah.
They dropped us off at the airport at one end of the airport, and the bus was like at the other end of the airport. Like
Just dirty.
just dirty,
Yeah.
dirty tricks.
Yeah.
'cause
It's funny when you look back and think of that stuff, though.
you had 3 years in Colorado where you played 100 games, all 3 years in a season, like playoffs included.
Yeah, I ended up playing a lot of games in Colorado. Yeah, for a while there, I had a pretty good streak going.
I think,
I forget which year. I think it was
So-
Atlanta. Atlanta played them all.
yeah, you
and
played them
then-
all 2 years in Colorado, and then 2 years in Atlanta. You played all 82 games as well. So
Yeah, I was actually leading the league at one point for games, and I remember I forget who it was. Like games in a row as a defenseman for consecutive games, and I forget who it was hit me. I think it was some in Detroit. I think it was
McCarty?
Datsuk.
Oh,
Which
Pavel.
you wouldn't-
Really? He's not a
No, behind the
huge
net. You know,
he's-
you reach out for the puck, and
Right.
he hit me right here, and
Yeah.
I think, anyways, I cracked a couple ribs, and I remember going out for warm up the next night because I wanted to keep the streak going.
Right.
And I'm old school, trying to shoot with one hand. the trainer's looking at me like,
Nah.
I don't.
You're
think,
not.
I don't think you can
Yeah.
It's interesting how those little hits happen and stuff like that. Tim was on here in the spring or the fall and was saying that he took a hit by Ray Bork, and he didn't think anything of it, but Bork just kind of rode him off into the boards and finished the hit. And he said he could barely breathe after it. It's just those awkward little ride-off hits and stuff like that. I'm sure it's common with, when you play at a higher level, and you guys have all seen that. But it's just interesting.
Borky's legs and butt look like this guy over here.
Oh my God!
Like all legs, all ass, like just
I
strong.
I remember when you two guys came back to Stratford and you're playing in City League, and I'm working out at Dufferin, and I'm watching Andy, and Andy's a left-hand shot coming down the right-hand side, and he'd be holding his stick left, and then at the last second he'd switch it over and be able to roof it on the goalie.
Silly.
The goalie wouldn't even know what the hell happened there. Nick Parr or whoever was in net, but just unbelievable,
That was fun. I came back, got to play with them, so it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
Those
You know
were
who
good.
else used to do that? Brian Marchment used to switch it
really?
over. It wasn't as effective.
Well, yeah, he wasn't playing in the City League.
No, but he would try it. He'd be out there in the point. I played with him my first year at Edmonton. What a partner! I got really good at 2-on-1s that year.
I heard there were.
He liked to pitch.
Yeah, God rest his soul. He was awesome. He'd go. He'd say he's gonna fight. Okay, I'm gonna fight this guy, but I'm gonna go left-handed. I'm just gonna try him left-handed.
Right. Why wouldn't he, right?
Okay, Mushy, go ahead. And it wasn't like some middle, right? He was what a guy.
Yeah, you just don't want to do that against Bob Probert or
That's the guy who did
it.
it.
Unreal.
Jeez.
You were a plus player every year except for your
Don't
last
don't
year.
look too close.
Your last year
yeah.
in Nashville,
Yeah, it wasn't.
you had problems
Yeah.
because you went down. You were a plus 23 in 2000.
Yeah, I know. My last year in Nashville, I had we didn't have as strong a team as we thought we did. We gave up a lot of goals, but no, it wasn't.
And you were on the
I had
ice for a
some
lot of them,
concussion.
too.
I had well, at least 15, I guess. As Erik would say, a plus minus is just art of the change. It's just knowing when to change and knowing how to change. It's either a really good stat. That year, it's a really good stat.
Yeah, I
That
see
year,
that,
yeah,
yeah.
it's not. That's not a good stat. But no, it's unfortunately that year I got in a couple fights and took a couple good hits to the head. So I was out for a lot of that year, and I struggled. I struggled with a few head issues that year. Not that that's an excuse.
Erik, you're still giving back to the team here in town. I walk into the arena on practice nights, and you're out there on the ice. And
Every once in a while, I get out there and drop pucks. They ask questions if they want, but I'm basically just a puck dropper and take a few off the shin and everything. But yeah, no, it's fun to get out and be a part of it, and I enjoy it.
It's funny. You talk to some of the kids on the team, and they, when they first come on the team, they don't know who you are. And then you're on the team, and I said, that guy holds the franchise record for points, and they're going, how many? 145. They're going, what? I said, different time, different era.
Yes, absolutely, for sure. No, it's fun. I enjoy doing it, and nice to get out there with Joe now that he's back in town. So that's fun.
Just gonna say for Colin, now you got Jonas back on the team, and you got your nephew Cole Lewis on the team, and they're, trugging along this year.
Yeah.
What a great pickup. As soon as he was at the Irish game shortly after he had been signed, and Clarkey had mentioned that he was working on a guy, obviously couldn't say before. And when I heard about him signing, and I just thought, wow, that is so cool, because he already knows the culture. He already knows Willie and, the guys involved with the system. And so, knowing Cole and all the guys or a lot of the guys on the team, there's a lot of rookies, but they're doing well. They got their work cut out for them, though. Like St. Mary's is a powerhouse, but you know what? That's why you play the game. Anything can happen, right?
Yeah,
so,
100%. I mean, we're super happy to have him home for sure.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Got to be away for some time last year, and he came back. He went away a boy and came back a man for sure.
Yep.
He grew up a lot. yeah, to what I was saying earlier, the more time I can have with Joe and our daughter Han and Steph and all of our friends, the better. Joe's a pretty community focused guy when it comes to that. I think like we seem to have a lot of players around our house, and Andy knows from when we played together. I had a lot of players around my house.
That's a good thing.
It is a good
Right?
thing. It's a really good thing. And I mean, when the Bills and Chiefs were playing, I mean, I had the wings and ribs on for the boys, and
Nice.
and I think there
That's
was
so
probably
awesome.
12 or 15 of them over at our house, and even when he was home at Christmas before it all went. I mean, the Lewis household is also very much
Open,
Oh, yeah.
open for
I'll just call
business.
it a gathering place. So
Yeah.
we feel pretty lucky to have the boys around for sure, and Joe and Cole. I mean, they've always had a pretty cool relationship. They're born on the same day, but a year apart, right? So,
Oh, okay.
So birthday parties growing up were a lot of times were joint things because they wanted to be together and we wanted
Right.
to be with everyone. So, so they ended up, for the most part, sharing friends along the way, and yeah, they spent a ton of time together.
Just wanted to send out. I speak to Robbie Lute today, and he's a new grandfather.
I wasn't sure if that was breaking news yet. Yeah,
No, it's good. Well, I talked to him today. And
okay,
he said,
so if
you're on the podcast
Louis,
today-
Louis usually not shy to break news.
Clayton?
Clay and Paula. So
Uncle
Clay,
Cole.
Yeah. So
Congratulations.
yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
To
This
the- to
is
the-
the
And it's
second best City League player I've ever played. Rob Lewis.
Robbie Lou. Yeah.
Right?
By far. Maybe, probably
well, if you add
number
in
one.
if you add in the
number one.
post game,
Right.
you might be
Post-game.
number one.
Post game,
Number one
he's
fun.
number one.
In fact, I think Hall of Famer
Maybe
legend comes to
pre-game,
mind
too.
for the
Yeah.
post game. But,
I mean, I give
Pre-game,
I give
post-game.
I give Rob a tough time sometimes, but geez, man, I feel pretty lucky to the brother-in-law that I got with with him, and then
Yeah.
my middle sister Carrie married Steve Swartwood, which is Charlie. I think was at one point maybe associated with the team, but certainly with the police
I
department.
think he's
as a
still the chaplain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's that connection, and then of course Clayton played here, so former player, and now he's a dad, and
That's
his
awesome.
wife Paula was a hockey player growing up too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Wooters, Paula Wooters. So yeah, it's
But
super special. Our
The
family's
dynamic between Cole and Jonas it's kind of funny sometimes they get on the bus and Cole say, I got an apple, but I didn't deserve it. Jonas said, they're going to take it away from me because you didn't touch the puck. And he because there for a while he'd get a point and they'd take it away, right? And he's going, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to this 100, right? And so Jonas just keeps giving it to him.
Well, it's probably best if Cole doesn't think about that.
Yeah.
For sure, it'll come for sure. But I know Cole's had a long-term girlfriend as well, and when Joe's around, I'm not sure. I'm not sure who's the third wheel, to be honest with you. And I think Emma's felt that way sometimes. Too.
That's
Those boys they're awesome, and all the Louis boys are awesome.
And just a time to be young and playing good hockey, and you look at those young men, and we've been out to a few games, and obviously Les is there along for the ride the whole season. But us being out there in St. Mary's and just seeing these guys play, it was one of your son's first time back, and you could just see like just the comfort level, and I'm just really happy that they're able to share these times because they'll be here in 30 years, like.
Yeah.
Talking about the good old days, and there's their whole life's ahead of them, and there's such very genuine, nice young men, which is really great to see.
Podcast number 11,000.
We'll probably be doing it
Right.
telegraphically by then,
It'll be a
But
No,
you don't
it's great.
realize it at the time, but it's the best years of your life. The only thing you've got to worry about is what time do I need to be at the rink and where's the party. Like that's basically, obviously school plays a part, but
Well, it does,
it's
but-
the best years of your life.
I think kids today and people in general are just in too darn much of a hurry sometimes, right? Like you don't, the days are long and the years are short. That's
Right.
kind of how it goes. And so, don't wish your life away sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so
Couldn't agree more.
you slow down there. You don't need to rush to school right out of high school. If that's
Yeah.
not what you're ready to do, if you've got a passion for, hockey or whatever it is, play that through. Don't worry, the big bad world will be there waiting for you
Yep.
when you're ready.
Yeah, and I love it that the NCAA with the NIL packages and stuff now, I'm sure it's public knowledge, but for those that don't know, Ty Higgins is going to Bowling Green.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's had a great career, and he didn't
The
play
Q.
in the OH. Well, he got drafted by Owen Sound, and Joey Hishen's guys, this defenseman's legit. They didn't want any part of him, so
He was at camp with Joe actually, and his dad Adam and I were there. And,
yeah.
And Higgy came out and he got sent home real early, and he was having a pretty
crazy
good camp, I thought. And him and Joe, speaking of friends, I mean, in the off seasons, Higgy's at
Yeah.
our house.
Yeah.
Him and Hots, the young Hots, and
Yep.
the three of them are 3Ps in a
Tyler.
in the off
Ty,
seasons.
yeah.
Ty, and Higgy had a great year when he was in Stratford too.
Right.
Like he had that shot from the point. He's
heavy.
got a pro level shot.
Yeah,
He
and
does.
Joey, I remember Joey Hishen saying to me, Razor, I tried telling them, what are you guys doing? And I don't want to go into too much, but he ended up finding his way out in the queue, and I think Owen Sound was maybe we whiffed on that one, but it is what it is.
And
But
that real
Unfortunately, it
art
happens
gets
every
that
day.
shot through, eh?
He gets
Yeah.
it through. He can
It's a
get
real
it
talent.
through.
Yeah.
It doesn't take
He
a lot of
was
time.
gone by Christmas, up to the queue. His shot was
yeah,
unbelievable.
and it was unfortunate because it was good for him personally. It was bad for Stratford because they thought that they were going to have him the whole year, and he was a huge loss. He was, on the point on the first
That's the
power
point of
play.
junior hockey, though, right?
It
Like,
is.
that's the whole point, is to advance players.
To advance
on
them,
and all that
100%.
sort
And
of
that's
stuff.
something
So-
that Clarkie always says too. Him and Parsi have that point of view, and obviously Willie and Slitsy and Nux and all those guys. It's such a great collaboration of management and coaches in Stratford right now, because they do understand that. And Junior B is a lot different even when you guys were there and making your way through. They know that the time is limited with great players. You look at Carson Harmer.
Yeah.
Last year, and now he's up doing really great things with Saginaw. So, part of the passing through.
Everybody wins when there's success, right?
Yeah,
And
well said.
I don't mean as team success. If a player advances, all those teammates are probably going to get more eyeballs, because if they found him here, there's
Who else
probably
is
others.
there?
And it brings in more players to the program the following year, because success begets success, right?
Yep.
And
Create
so
the harvest.
I think it's amazing, and I think even for Higgy, maybe what happened for him and Owen Sound, because he didn't even get drafted in his normal draft year, right? He waited. I think it was the U18 draft too. On top of that, and so, perhaps that was the best thing for him.
Well, you look at him now, because he's going to be going in at what, 21? 2021?
No,
He's
an 04, so he'd be in his last year
Yeah,
of
yeah.
junior eligibility. So I don't think that's late. That's pretty common, I think.
But
in today's-
talk about he's got experience now from the Q.
Yeah.
He's going into Dennis's program. That is just good for Higgy,
Win-win.
good for BG. It is.
Absolutely,
It's an absolute win-win.
And it's just at the right time with the NCAA and the CHL making the agreement.
Well,
that he's
because
still eligible, right? Because for years he wouldn't have been able to do this.
Yeah.
Den has
played
to
in the
find
crew.
those guys, because let's face it, he can't compete with the Michigans and the Michigan States. So he's got to bring something else. He's got to have eyes, in other areas and
But he
stuff.
will.
And he's been successful in Everett and everywhere that
he
he's
wins
been.
everywhere
He
he goes.
just wins.
Yeah.
Wins World Juniors, right?
terribly,
Right?
terribly.
And it's
He's very
unfortunate. We were supposed to have Dennis on, but
Yeah.
he ended up finding
get
something
connected
better to
sooner.
do. But-
We'll get connected.
So you
at
got
some
me
point.
instead, eh?
so then we thought we'd bring in Stanley Cup champion.
So we brought in
DeVries,
Greg.
so-
Yeah.
I won that bet. I'll get that paid out.
But
Greg
we're
was the
saying to
insurance
Les,
package.
what time's Dennis coming on? Oh, I think it's 6:30.
Yeah.
And so then
It was kind of just up in the air.
Yeah.
This played out exactly as I would have expected.
You mean the podcast? Or
No,
Dennis?
with Willie.
Oh, okay.
No, he's a
But
love him. I coached him as a peewee, And I don't know if you guys know the story, but I coached him at like 12 or 13 years old, Major Pee Wee. And we ended up playing Joe Thornton's team in the All-Ontario semifinals and beat them. And I'll never forget, like, Thornton was a man amongst boys at that time. He had his ass up against the boards at the Almond, and he was looking, you know, like Gretzky behind the net. And then he just went, you know what, I'm just going to do this myself. And he had our goalie going from side to side, and he just reached out and tucked it in the net. You know, the goalie couldn't get over there. And I'm just like, this guy is like on another level. Unfortunately, he didn't have a very strong supporting cast, so we beat them. Like Jer and I, Jeff Martin, Willie. But and then we ended up, you know, just cruising through the finals.
But I think those guys later on all ended up playing spring hockey together, because
Yes,
I know Dennis and Joe ended up being pretty good buddies.
Yeah, really good.
So.
But
it's the way the hockey world works, right?
It really is.
Play against each other for one
it's a
season
small
together.
fraternity, like small community. I remember when we were at the Tragically Hip final concert, when we went to the London Gardens, and you had one of your buddies.
Yeah,
from
was that
Colorado.
any fun? Was that
right? That was a good time. And
Yeah.
so then you and Susie ended up getting a suite and brought a bunch of us from the gym from CrossFit and Kevin Smith. And
I think I read something about that in the London Free Press.
it was a night.
No, we were pretty good.
It was a night. Yeah, it was a good time.
That was a great
40 and but one of your buddies from Colorado was there. I forget his name.
Oh, Ruchin? Was it Steve? No.
No, it wasn't Ruchin.
No, 'cause
but
I played with
anyways,
him in
I
Atlanta.
started talking to him, and I realized quite quickly that he wasn't part of CrossFit. So I went over, and after a few beers, I introduced myself. Well, he tells me that he played with you in Colorado.
God.
And then I'm like, oh, you know, I know Devo. And he's like, well, you know, how do you know him? And started talking about the Cullitons, and I played with Emmer. So, I know Emmer. And, you know, like it's a small
really?
community. Like it's,
Susie will text me in 20 seconds. I
I forget who he. I think he was a right shot. I don't know if that makes any difference, but I just said right. So that cuts down Sakic. Hayduk's a right shot.
Boyd Deborah? No, it wasn't Boyd. Was he
No.
there? No, because I didn't play with Colorado.
No.
I played with Boyd in Edmonton.
I forget his
I was
name.
his first roommate, Boyd.
Was it Steve? I don't think it was Steve Ruchin.
No,
I
because I didn't
forget.
play with him in Colorado. I played with Ruch in Atlanta.
Okay, yeah. No,
and I went to Tragically Hip with Ruch in Atlanta. So
Oh,
there
did
go.
you? Okay. No, that was pretty cool, and
That was cool, yeah.
it was pretty emotional because like that was his last, you know, hurrah, and man, oh man, like, you know, it gave chills, you know, when you're watching him saying goodbye, and
No,
just
that was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun that night.
good time.
For sure.
Yeah, I miss the gym. You're the one that got me into ping pong. You used to kick my ass. At 8 a.m. Greg,
And you know I'm right-handed, and I played left-handed the whole time.
Well, I needed that, right, to build my confidence. So
no, we had a lot of fun. That was
good.
That's, I was 10 years at the gym across with Stratford here in town, and we had great members.
Such good times.
I miss, like Colin talks about, group, having people around and seeing the same people you want to see, over and over again, and that's the same kind of atmosphere. So,
for sure.
Yeah, miss a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, hopefully through the Dairy Queen and through Revel and through Devo coming into town, like wanting to hang out. Hopefully we can
go to the coffee place.
Wow, that's true. Yeah, we'll go to the.
Well, I'm not going to Dairy.
Well, we'll go to the Revel for our morning coffee, and then for our dessert, we'll come out and see.
I'm just happy to hear you're open. That's incredible news.
Yeah.
I can't wait to tell Janet.
Yeah,
it'd be fantastic.
That's great. Yeah,
But,
get some brownie points. Don't even tell her. Just come home with the dilly bar.
Thank you.
Right?
Oh yeah, that's the deal.
Yeah, you got time.
After work.
Yep.
No.
Exactly.
That perfect.
But guys,
Well,
anything before we sign off? Like, thank you so much. Just great stories. Our viewers and fans have just been talking about you guys all week. So thank you for coming on. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add, but
no, thanks for having us. I'm not speaking for these guys, but what you guys are doing to try and develop community and have some of us old farts on to share in the story times. I mean, that's a great thing that you guys are doing, and thanks a lot for letting us, or letting me share the space with you guys today. It was great. It was always, anytime I get together with these two guys is a special day. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, it was funny because I had texted you two guys first, and I said to Andy, I said, I'm trying to get Devo. I know he's busy, and he's like, oh, he's coming. He says, Razor, don't you worry about that. We'll make sure he comes. So thanks, Devo, and
no problem.
Thanks, Schmitty and Andy for coming, man. You guys, it's been awesome. We'd love to have you guys on again sometime, and appreciate you guys. Like, you're right, Schmitty. It's all about community, and Jeff started this thing off a year and a half ago.
Year and a half,
yeah. And so. I was
51 episodes.
Right. I was fortunate. It was a slow night, and they thought, you know what, Razor might have an odd story or two. So
Razor and Reuter.
Yeah. So Reuter and I came on, and the rest is history.
But the thing too that I'd like to say to you three in visiting tonight is thank you for that. But it's not so much about living in the past and whatever that means. It's more about celebrating memories. We're really trying to pump the 50th anniversary of the Stratford Carlton / Warriors. Always interesting, that you actually have kids that are involved in certain avenues, which is fantastic. But it's a celebration of a great community hockey team that has been around for 50 years, and so it's great to have different avenues of stories for all three of you, and even with Barton and Dan Forget a couple weeks ago. So one thing that we've really learned is our listeners / viewers really enjoy this type of roundtable. So very, very thankful for your time tonight, guys. Thank you.
It was kind of twofold on our part. We got a big episode coming up next Monday, and we thought, how do you promote that episode? Well, you bring 3 former guys on, and you talk about
aces.
it. Yeah, 3 aces in the hole.
Right?
Can I, after you announce the 50, I'm going to claim I'm 51, just so you know.
And I'm 52, right?
Yeah, just so you know.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? And even though we can't reveal who's on, who's not, I just appreciate Les and the guys that are on the committee, because we're not going to please everyone.
No.
And all we ask is it's not this guy is number 1, but this guy was number 50. It's just a general list.
Yeah,
and good luck trying to pick 50 guys out of 50 years of hockey teams. Like, it's a thankless job.
It was really 850 plus alumni, and we got it down to the 50, and then I said, how do we want to present this? Do we want to put them in order? And everybody's like, no. We're just going to go from year 1.
So it's by decade.
To now. We've just done it from, who's ever number 1, they were there early on, and it goes up until present, or as close to as present. And we also 45 to 50 is 5 goaltenders. So
I gotta assume that anybody who's played in this organization is going to have their own memories of what greatness was for them while they were here.
100%.
And I mean, it's a great organization, and it's fantastic that folks are talking about people, right? And it gives everybody a chance to relive those memories.
Yes.
Whether it's about greatness, however that's defined in this piece or not,
and that's what I found just going back through all the stats. Like, I have everybody's stat from whatever, and it's just, it was hard to come up with, because some people played a lot of games and some people didn't play a lot of games, and here and there. So how do you quantify that into what was what, right?
Well, and some guys, if you're really, really good, you probably didn't spend a lot of time.
Exactly what it is, right?
And so you've got that to balance. It's junior hockey, so you've got
Right.
that to balance. It's when you're the pinnacle of the hockey world's the NHL. Obviously, that's a little bit easier to do things like that. When you're in junior, it's quite a bit different. And there's players that played in this league that only spent little bits of time in Stratford. A guy you mentioned, Perry Ohm. I mean, probably had one of the best junior B careers. I mean, I think he played 6 years in the league.
Right.
And he was
Walt Morris played 5 years.
What's the name for them, Les? The Golden
Boys.
Golden Boys.
Golden Boys are
Yeah.
5-year players.
5-year players.
There's not many of them.
We
Cam-
just graduated.
Cam
Dag.
Dag was the last one, and
Yeah.
he might be the last one for a while because
Right.
you just don't get it anymore.
I was talking to Mills, Steve, because his son
Yep.
played in the game on Friday.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Got his first
I mean,
goal.
well, he's averaging his
Yeah.
career average is a goal. He's averaging a goal a game in
Yep.
the league. And I think Steve let me know that if he gets
retire.
two,
Right? Right?
Steve did say if he gets 2 more, he beats me. But he'll never catch him in fights.
He had his
Yeah,
first goal.
that's
He
right.
had his first goal Friday night.
That was
That's
nice. It was a nice
awesome.
goal. He played-
Congratulations.
I did
played a
not
really
know
good
that.
game.
I didn't
GHG
know
goal.
that he had
Like we said,
played.
Cole Lewis is up to 98 points. Hunter Nagy's up to 95 points. So, because we talked about parity, and there's so much parity in this league now.
Yeah.
St. Thomas has this young 16-year-old Howry. I have not seen a kid that can skate and shoot like this kid. This kid's going to go places. He's not going to be in this league very long, if past this year at all. But you see that on some teams, and it's such a great league now, the way they've separated it out into the 2 conferences, and it's brought a lot of excitement back into the arena, I think, because the crowds have been getting bigger later in the year.
Good.
Jamie Hartnett from my year would have been a
Jamie
Yes.
Hartnett was here a long
5,
time.
He was a Golden Boy.
Yeah,
Yes.
he was a Golden Boy.
Yeah.
He has the most points in franchise history. So
yeah.
I think he ended up becoming
He's our
the
CMP.
deputy police chief in Peterborough, if I'm not mistaken. I was doing some research before the show, and I was looking at different guys and captains and stuff on the teams that you guys had played on. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he ended up becoming, because he was from up north, but not from Peterborough.
Colin's in that small group of being a captain of the Stratford Coltons, because
Yeah.
there's not a lot of them around either. Right?
No, no.
There's 45 of them. maybe
Andy was
44,
assistant that year.
because there's only a couple.
Like that
two-year
last year, the
captains.
big year, 96, 97.
One thing I'd really like to send thanks to with you guys too is getting up for the podcast and wearing all your swag.
That's great.
Unbelievable.
Steve and I had to
set the
take
bar.
ours
That
off. Things were
is-
getting a little cooked.
That is so cool.
Colin, you come in off the street and you're like carrying your
That is
See the
awesome.
pictures
code
on the
and-
table
and,
there.
Yeah, we've
couple
got
other things,
some
and
pictures here. I gotta.
we'll post them on the
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah, that
But,
one's in the book from Dean Robinson. That one here review.
Look at the flow.
That was
Right?
that was my first year because there's an A on there. So
Yeah,
so
just
Shane Stewart
kicking
would have been
ass,
the
eh?
captain.
Oh, and that's
Yeah.
Andy in the background.
Oh, yeah.
No,
That's you, yeah.
that's actually not Andy.
Isn't it?
That's a
No.
guy that we picked up from Woodstock, and his name, I'm sorry, is escaping me at.
Well, just get
Okay.
back to us on that if you don't mind.
Right.
You might be waiting a while. He was a pretty late addition after Woodstock got put out, if I remember correctly.
But,
Gotcha.
But those were 2 pretty amazing years for sure.
Wow.
In Stratford for
There's,
sure.
But
there's
with
just
you-
so much history. in
and
this
and
team.
with your busy schedules, guys, thanks again so
Yeah.
much. So,
What decade are you picking from? Just so.
I was on the committee of a whole, so I didn't have a decade to pick from. So if you're gonna
So
slip, if you're
the
gonna slip
way
money,
that
I have some pull though.
the way that we had announced it on other podcasts, but we're going to announce the 5 goalies first, and then we're going to go through just the decades. So we're going to start at the guys that are the most recent, and then work our way down to 1975 to 1985. Now, full disclosure, the first 20 years have the bulk of the guys on the team, but it is like I said, Les, I can't thank you guys enough. It's a thankless job. You guys did a lot of work. John Kastner,
Steve Rice,
Corey
Corey Smith.
Yeah.
I'll tell everybody right now. Steve Rice picked a perfect decade. There was no question. We glanced over it and away we went.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just so many winning teams, so many great players. I got one trivia question for everybody at the table. Who is the most decorated former Stratford Colton?
Like it decorated how? Like points?
Points, career, period. Not just in Stratford, but overall career right through to the NHL.
decorated. I don't know what that means.
Well, I'm gonna say Rob Blake because he won.
Is this
Olympics,
personal opinion, or-
NHL?
No, it's
World Championships, things
World
like
Championships.
that. Olympics.
I would say Blakey, but your
don't know what that
reaction
means.
says I'm
it's
wrong.
a defenseman. It's a defenseman. and you played with him.
Oh, geez,
okay, there you
Pronger.
go, yeah.
Chris Pronger.
Brandon Carper.
Exactly.
He
Those
was
are
a,
different. Those are
was he a
different
BG when you were there? He was a BG when you were
He
there.
was, yeah.
Yeah.
Carps was a two-sport athlete. He played baseball.
Baseball,
did he?
heck of a
Okay.
pitcher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
just
beauty.
yep.
Wow.
Just going back through everybody's career, what they've done after hockey. Chris Pronger, World Championship, World Juniors.
Because I think
Stanley
Blake
Cups,
is too. I think the two of
MVP.
them, because I know Blake won a World, Stanley
He never won a juniors though.
Yeah, but
didn't win
I
a
don't
June
know.
because he went to Bowling Green. Yeah, so he didn't win that. Did Pronger win a Memorial Cup?
Yeah.
Oh,
In
he did.
Peterborough.
Okay.
Prongs was 6'4", 6'5", 100. He might have been 150 pounds when he played in Stratford.
Well, you heard that story about Sean Pronger talking on Spit and Chicklets. Okay, so Sean,
I only listened to your podcast.
okay, well, good for you. You're picking the right one.
That's
And
right.
So Sean's on Spit and Chicklets, and he's talking about how Chris is talking to him, going, "What should I do? Like, should I go to Stratford or should I go to the O?" And he's like, "Chris, like, you should go to Stratford, like, And I guess he was like the number one pick to Detroit, and they offered him a Corvette or something if he would come to Detroit, but Sean said, "No, you should, end up going to Stratford, go to school." Well, it became apparent after his year in Stratford that he should fast track it and go to the O, and so then Sean says that I cost Chris a Corvette. He still bugs me about it because I could have had a free Corvette from Detroit if I would have went through the O instead of coming to Stratford. So it's a funny story.
What a player! Hack and whack, and just cross check.
Right.
His theory. I mean, I don't know if he says this, but I know, for the first two periods, he just absolutely abused everybody on his side of the ice.
Right.
By third period, the plays on the other side of the ice.
And he was
like
only
no-
15.
Yeah, I
Like,
just-
that
Well,
was the
man, I just
incredible
throughout his-
thing.
and he held it throughout his career. It didn't matter what level. That's
Right.
That's what he did.
And he's a winner everywhere he went.
No. What's he doing
Yeah.
now? He's still in the league, is he not? Is he
Well,
doing
no, I don't know. I just saw, I follow him on Instagram.
Okay.
His wife does like mental wellness, like where they do retreats and self-building, and they had a retreat with a bunch of people somewhere on a beach.
They
I don't
need
know
this
where.
guy right here.
Well,
Some
there you go.
serious deep
Right,
thoughts and
right.
motivational.
With Jack Andy.
Exactly. And so, guys, once again, thank you for coming on. It's been amazing. Hope to have you guys on again sometime in the future. And thanks again. And before we go, Les, you've got something that you wanted to talk about?
I had somebody reach out to me last Thursday. The hockey world lost a announcer, a goalie, was drafted to Washington, became a pro scout with Washington and Toronto. Sean Simpson passed away. The guy reached out and he said, he lost the battle with his demons, which, it's tough. So, we just want to end the show like we always do. It's okay not to be okay. Just start the conversation.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Wayward mind, lovesick blind. Why do I climb these heights for you? Twisted muse always gets mine.